Another day in suburbia, same old script on the TV screen. Do you ever feel like you're just a walk-on in somebody else's dream? Hey! Wake up in the morning to the alarm clock live, billboards preaching gospel from the suits up high, chemtrails in the sky like graffiti from hell, while the radio's pumping out the stories they sell. Daddy's little war on the evening news, kids on pills cause the system's got the blues, living in a puppet show, strings tied to the bank. Another generation sinking in the tank. Warning signs flashing, but nobody reads. Plugged into the feed while the whole world plays. Oh, the world's a stage and we're the clowns. Conspiracy cities burning it down. Illuminati bastards hiding in the crowd, pulling all the strings while we scream out loud. Another cog in the machine gone rogue. Middle finger to the kings on their golden throne. The world's a stage, yeah, we know the deal. Time to smash the set and make it real. Flat earth tattoos on the trailer parkings, aliens on the payroll pulling everything. Tipped up like cattle in the checkout line. False flag fireworks every single time. Suburban rebellion in a cul-de-sac rage. Mom and dad asleep on the American stage. Echo in the mall where the zombies shop. Wake up, make this bullshit stop. Red alert sirens in the quiet night. They're coming for your mind, better put up a fight. The world's a stage and we're the clowns. Conspiracy cities burning it down. Illuminati bastards hiding in the crowd, pulling all the strings while we scream out loud. Another cog in the machine gone rogue. Middle finger to the kings on their golden throne. The world's a stage, yeah, we know the deal. Time to smash the set and make it real. Welcome to the breakdown of society, where the truth is treason and the freaks run free. No more holidays in the police daydream. Light the fuse, let me hear you scream. Oh, the world's a stage. Tear the curtain down. Conspiracy cities coming for the crown. Illuminati running, but they can't escape. With a warning shot on the mixtape. No more holidays in this fascist groove. Wake up, motherfuckers, we got nothing to lose. The world's a stage and we're stealing the show. Burn it to the ground. Let's go, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Hey guys, let's get this audio check done real quick, and we will bring Joe in. He is backstage. We've been chatting just now. Got a lot of things going on in both of our lives, just like you guys do. It is a crazy, insane world. And yet, it's just we're kind of living in those times where if you've been awake for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, nothing should surprise you. But audio is good. Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to bring Joe straight on in here. I don't even know what we're going to talk about other than current affairs, issues, what's going on. But Joe's been on the channel before. How you doing, man?
Hey, Jason, great to be back. Appreciate it. You know, I think the timing is aligned and we need to talk about what's going to happen in this next year or so.
Yeah, man, it's insane. My personal, I mean, without looking at anything in particular, I have this feeling based off what I've already seen so far is that we are in a transitional period where everything that has been in service to the very dragon that has been controlling us, the dragon is slowing off its scales, and like a serpent slows off its skin. It's removing everything that it's been busted for, suspected of, everybody who's been connected to it in any way. And we're going to come out of this. It may be some tumultuous and rocky times, but I foresee that we're going to come out of this, and then everything's going to be okay for a while. It's actually going to be pretty nice for a while. And the dragon's going to take on a new form. And unfortunately, the general public's going to fall for it.
And I think you're absolutely correct, because that's the same thing that I've been seeing. And, and I approach it from different perspectives. Obviously, I study astrology. I've known it for many years. And I also use numerology, tarot. But more importantly, like you've said often, I rely heavily on the spidey senses, the intuition,
Yeah. Intuition's
because
everything.
it guides me more than anything else. And I know how to read my own intuition, and I get premonitions that are really strong about what's coming in the field. And then I, go to the astrology or go to the numerology or whatever it is, and I'll look at it and go, ooh, this is going to be an interesting time frame. And then it'll confirm what's going on. But I got to tell you, whatever this energy is that's coming in or distorting the field is making it more possible to see easier and clearer. And I'll give you an example. I made a prediction in November of last year, exactly on December the 14th, somebody famous was going to be killed. And that prediction happened right to the T, because I saw the date coming. And this was a vision, a premonition, because I spend a lot of time by myself. And I just saw this coming. But I do have another date that's coming that I want, share with you and the audience. And so we saw that on December the 14th, Rob Reiner, the director, got stabbed and killed, him and his wife. And I saw this happening. It was somebody famous that was going to be killed. Now they're showing me, or my higher consciousness, if you will, was showing me another date that we need to really pay attention to. And we'll cover that as well. But April the 14th, I see again somebody very famous being assassinated. So, I'm just putting it out there in the field because that's what I saw. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just one of these things. You know how the field works, Jason. It's just you'll see things and it's a possibility. It's not guaranteed.
Right,
right. And so I see that coming, and I see many other changes coming just in the next 3 months. So,
yeah, there's the old fire horse. The old fire horse seems to get cranking up right around the time of my meetup. So my meetup's on the 20th.
Okay.
So we got this fire horse episode going to start cranking up. I don't know what to really expect of that, but it's definitely transitional.
Is it the 20th?
The April 14th deal is interesting because since you've given me a date,
April
14th, and it's famous, well, that's 2 qualifiers right there for calendrics. You've given me something to look at so I can back measure, and you've given me a specific. There's only so many famous people out there, so I would start with the most famous, and I would, in my mind, I would go through those who have already fulfilled their role. They don't really have any more utilitarian value to the dragon. So I would start with Trump and then work my way down.
Exactly.
And I would look at their lives in the calendrics and see what it looked like.
But the person I saw, again, and it's just part of my consciousness, it's in there, but I saw Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
Oh, so you saw
specific, but again, my consciousness was already focused on them going after him and attacking him verbally and monetarily. They're trying to get rid of him out of Washington. So he could have just been in my field of consciousness, and he came up with that assassination. So I would say keep an eye on him, because he could be somebody that they literally take out politically or possibly assassinate. And I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see him go. But also, Jason, April 15th is a very important day. Wasn't that the Titanic going down on April the 15th? Right.
Yeah, that wasn't nature. That wasn't accidental.
That's right.
That was of human manufacture. And hey, the people of the serpent that implemented that did that so they could hijack the U.S. economy.
That's right.
If you're seeing April 15th as being something interesting, then it could have everything to do. The energy attached to that part of the year is definitely hijacking the economy, and they had to kill 3 billionaires in order to do it. And they didn't care how many other people died. In scuttling that's basically what they did. They scuttled that ship, whether it was Titanic or Olympic, it doesn't even matter. They scuttled that ship and killed all those people to eliminate those 3 guys.
Exactly. And this is what I've been trying to convey to my community, Jason, that it's more sinister than you could possibly imagine when you look at the history of what they have done, and most people don't want to believe it because most people don't have that in their consciousness. Yeah, I'm going to, create this elaborate scheme to kill a whole bunch of people. And that's just one example. There's so many throughout history that show us that these people will do, or these beings will do anything to get their power. and including taking over people's bodies, including, literally, using technology to clone people. And this is where we start going into that weird woo-woo realm, but the information is overwhelming in this area. And you touched upon it in that last video with the reptilians and the David Icke thing. It was a great video because it really shows you the possibilities of how they manipulate human consciousness,
That video, man, has been both a blessing and a curse to me because I wanted to do the video to cap off all these here's all these psyops and here's all these theories and here's how you tie them all together, and I wanted it to be the end all so I can move on to other things. But since releasing that video, oh my God, the amount of information confirming each individual tenet of the video has overwhelmed me. Just data acquisition. I'm like, damn, man, I don't want to do a second video, but it looks like it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, well, you know that, as I've been saying and many others, this is the Great Awakening. Whether however you want to term it, it doesn't matter. It's whatever it is that's happening to us. It's forcing us to look at reality for what it is on this planet. And many people don't want to see it. I mean, I just did a live stream yesterday and so many comments. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Trump would never do that. He's here to save us. This whole savior mindset to me is troubling, whether it's the Messiah coming back for the Jews or Jesus Christ reappearing to save humanity. I mean, people literally take this as gospel. This is actually going to happen in this way, but what if this is an energy that's coming back, for a time or a period that awakes us and makes us feel happier and more elated? And that is a possibility in the field this year, Jason. I'll be honest with you, because of April being such a powerful time, and starts off this month, actually in February, with the eclipse and the alignments that I'm seeing. It's very possible we start feeling euphoric for no reason because of the amount of energy that's moving. And there is that possibility also in July and August, because the astrology there is another eclipse in Leo. And that is very positive energy, along with Jupiter going into Leo. Now, for those of you that don't know who I am, I do Western astrology using tropical whole house system, which is a little different than sidereal. The timing is off by about 2 weeks or so, but it's still a good indicator of what's coming. So I do think we have a mixed bag this year, Jason. We have a lot of positive energy, but we have overwhelming. It's going to be major transformational energy. And I could give you the highlights. I do have a bunch of slides eventually I'll share with us, but
I'd love to see them. I am curious about, I did a predictions video in 2025 with Waters Above Crypto on January 1st last year. The video is still on YouTube. And in the video, just looking at calendrics, I had said that, look, in 2025, you guys are going to see silver just rise and then rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. And it did. So, but I haven't done a predictions video for 2026 because I'm just so deluged with so many different projects and so many things. And I literally have 7 more Academy files to edit and put together. And I have literally put together my own university, Archaix Academy. Each file is massive, but this has been a project I've been working on for a long time. I'm just now finishing it up right before my meetup. So I've been so busy with so many things, but I'm curious as to your take on this really interesting 125-year chart that has been released online that shows that 2026 is going to be an economic boom, and that these are planned well in advance. Well, it has to be planned because this was written in 125 years ago, this chart. So the chart is circulating all over social media. I have 2 or 3 different versions and video clips of it. But it showed the last kind of boom was 2019. And then it shows that right after 2019, things are going to go real south for a while. And they did. And it says the next boom period where economy is going to recover fast, and things are going to have value is 2026.
And I can't disagree with that because of the astrology that I'm seeing in July and August. We all know, your listeners, my listeners, that the economy is being reset, and it has to. And this is a cycle that seems to happen every 80 to 125 years, according to Catherine Austin Fitz, who's an economist and a Wall Street banker. But what I'm seeing from the astrology is absolutely a change to the economic system. Now, I'll give you an example. Leo rules gold. And so when you have Jupiter and you have a solar eclipse in Leo, it's going to amplify that precious metal. Now, one of the things
isn't the moon representative of silver?
Yes, it is. I was going to get to that too. You have both of these being activated, and especially in the July and August timeframe. So one of the things that I do see, and I've said this before, on my videos, I said, watch silver and gold prices go up. Now, here's the thing that's really crazy, Jason, because one of the premonitions I had, and this was a couple of years ago, I saw silver at $1,000 an ounce, which is not unreasonable. And I saw gold at $13,000 an ounce. So what leads me to believe this, and again, it's just, consciousness in the field, is that whatever currency they're going to put out, it's going to be attached to some sort of precious metal, more than likely gold. Okay, because we know the BRICS nations already has a gold-backed currency. They use 30% of China's gold to back the currency. And so we're going to see something like that. So I would agree with that. Trump is going to roll out this year some sort of change to the financial system. And I've always said this now for the last few years. They cannot roll it out too quickly because it will crash economies. So they have to slow roll it. But once the cat's out of the bag, there's no turning back anymore. And yes, it will help a lot with the economy. But like you said at the beginning, it's only temporary. Because by the time 2030, 2033 comes around, that's when the earth changes start happening. Okay. And I think we touched upon it last time, either volcanoes or earthquakes of some kind.
I've informed my community that the tertiary field, volcanic activity is the main thing a tertiary field is going to do. And I've even told them that way before 2040, we're going to start seeing the environmental effects of the return of a vapor canopy. And vapor canopies are made very fast only by volcanic activity. They require volcanoes.
And that makes perfect sense. And by the way, I think I mentioned this before we got on. I do have two charts, one for May 2040, and I have another one for the other object in November of 2046. So at the end of this presentation, I'll share my take on what I see here,
Awesome.
and I based it in the United States, obviously, because that's where we both live, but it's going to be worldwide. So again, I just focused it on the United States because the May 2040 chart really hits the United States in a big way. Okay. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world kind of thing, but it is powerful. It's major changes that are going to occur to the United States. And I think, the powers that be all know this. They follow astrology. They know numerology. They follow the patterns and cycles.
I don't have the astrology, but in my own model, calendrics, I see United States being abandoned. I've told this to my community many times in my Phoenix videos. After 2040, people in North America are going to be abandoning by oil tankers, cruise ships, airplanes, and the majority of the population that are able are going to unify and get the hell out of North America right after 2040. And before 2046, most of the population will be relocated to Europe and the Middle East.
Yeah. And that's possible. I just think, if I decide to stay here, the place to be would probably be Colorado because of the high peak, the 14,000 peak, mountains and stuff. And that's why I've taken many trips to Colorado. I'm not saying I'm going to do it.
Maybe they'll let you in Cheyenne Mountain.
I've been to Cheyenne Mountain. I was there last year. Man, that is a creepy looking place. I can just tell you, it's military everywhere, but everything is underground over there.
Oh, it's massive underground. It's huge.
Exactly. So, but this is a big year, no matter how you slice it. And the astrology, I've looked at it from the tarot, the numerology, the astrology, and I have slides for all this. So cool. If you want me to share my screen, Jason, I think if you want me to start, I can, unless
sure.
you wanna...
one more question before you start.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I've had this suspicion about, the inception of anything encodes everything about it. So this is a really good learning tool. The beginning of anything will always encode key denominators about its ending, its past. The past is always referring to the beginning of a thing. So, and this is because everything lives and dies by cycles. Even time is cyclical. All our calendars are cyclical. History is cyclical. So Well, astrology, everything is cyclical. Now,
Hmm.
so we have a really unusual beginning for something as important as money, and a lot of money changing hands all over the world.
Hmm.
This Bitcoin deal with Satoshi, who is an unknown, seems to be controlled by intelligence agencies.
Hmm.
And I just have this idea that Bitcoin was was going, it was to be built only to be sacrificed to something else.
And,
Oh,
and you and you could be right, Jason, because we know that all the intelligence agencies have funded all of these operations, including Google and all the big tech companies. They're the ones that found it. They usually came out of the military first,
yeah.
and then they went underground into these alphabet agencies and so on,
Yeah,
and they've been funding
ARPANET
it.
and DARPA, all
Right.
that's commercialized into the internet. Yeah, it's been a control op for. I was just telling people just a week ago, right on my channel. I says, listen, guys, you're fooling yourselves if you think a VPN protects you. You're fooling yourselves if you think that government servers don't already have your entire search history, every image, every website you've ever visited. Don't get embarrassed, guys. They already know everything about it. They have whole dossiers on everybody in the public, and there's nothing you have ever done online that was absolutely private. It doesn't exist. Everything is
Absolutely.
recorded. Everything is recorded. That's how they blackmail all these politicians. That's how they blackmail all these actors and actresses into doing their will. Say, hey, man, look, we don't want to embarrass you. We don't want to put this out to the public.
Right. Right.
But we know you're a patriot. We'll just listen. You'll take this money right here. This disappears, and look, 2 or 3 times a year, just go to one of our benefits and spill your liberal bullshit. That's all.
No, you're absolutely right. I've been trying to tell people this is how it works. Either they bribe you or they blackmail you. One of the two.
Yeah,
You know,
I feel I'm offended. I'm offended, man. I'm offended for 2 reasons. One, I had 2 Jewish people show up on my property trying to pay me $4,000, man, to work with Jason Tice, J Dreamers, and try to bridge the Phoenix phenomenon with the plasma apocalypse. I'm offended for 2 reasons. One, $4,000, it's nothing. That's
right,
nothing. You know what I mean? Why haven't you come to me with 40 million? Why don't you give me a job like what's his name? Joe Rogan. You know what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
But yeah, I feel offended. I'm so cheap that you're gonna just offer me $4,000 and I think I'm gonna change my whole message and all that. You suck.
Right. Well, I'm sure you're getting on their radar, okay, because you are putting out information about truth, about cycles and patterns. Years ago when I started listening to Art Bell, and I love that man's work, and all the
I
guests he
loved
had
Art
on
Bell.
there.
Art
And,
Bell was
and
awesome.
absolutely, every time they would talk about this object that was coming in, whether it's Nibiru or whatever you want to call it, Nibiru, he would have technical issues on his end, or he would get the phone call, and he admitted it before he died. Yeah, they used to contact me, and George Norrie had the same thing, and I had a friend of mine go on there, and he said they told him, do not talk about this, otherwise we're going to just kill the show right on air. We're going to kill it, and they did.
Joe, they come to my meetups. They
I'm
come
sure
to my
they did.
meetups and I sit down and talk with them every single time.
Yeah.
And there's people that have been in my meetups who see them. I've even said hi to them as I get up on stage and go to talking and stuff. Listen, I'm transparent. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to start a revolution. I just want to educate those few people who are willing to listen. Matter of fact, my message is we're immortals passing through a construct. So there's really nothing here. There's nothing really here. We're not here. Well, what are you going to do with a government revolt? All that does is kill one head of a hydra so 2 more can pop up. Why waste the energy?
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride.
I totally agree. But I'm just still always amazed with how many people are just waking up and are shocked. And that cognitive dissonance, because I get a lot of that here because people just assume because I'm just an astrologer, I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been researching this stuff for 35 years. And then you come along and fill in the gaps even more. And so it just becomes eye-opening to somebody who is just getting into this understanding of this reality. And
well, you're
actually
a researcher. You're a researcher and content creator, but astrology just happens to be one of your strongest tools.
Exactly. I actually, now I'm just saying that I'm a truth seeker. I'm just telling people I'm a freaking truth seeker. I want to know where the truth is and wherever it takes me. I don't have any preconceived notions. I know stuff, but if there's new information that comes out, I'm going to take that in and understand it and see if it makes sense to me, But it is amazing to me to see some of the comments. You wouldn't believe how many comments, I'm sure, like your videos, I have to remove or I have to just get rid of people because they are just so shocked by the information, you know?
Yeah, they
And
are.
it's
And
sad.
listen, what you're experiencing, you can go ahead and start your presentation. But
Okay.
what you're experiencing, you can imagine when I was in prison and
Mhm.
I'm listening to Art Bell. This is before George Norrie even took over, but I
Right.
used to listen to Art Bell, and you can imagine how I felt when I'm sitting there. I've done all this reading and research, and I'm listening to these guys, and I'm hearing absolute misinformation or information being presented wrong. And the guy
Right.
does have a case, but he's presenting it. He's not even using the right evidence. There's better evidence to support his. You can imagine all the inner turmoil I went through the
Oh.
years listening to these radio programs,
Mhm.
and I can't even get on the phone. You dumbass! I can't do anything. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I could just imagine, Jason. All right, Jason, I shared the thing on my end. Can you see it? Uh,
Yeah, it's on screen.
okay, awesome. Let me start the slideshow. As you can see, I got a bunch of slides here, and please interject if you have any comments. You know, because I'm going to be looking at my whole screen here. Let me start this slideshow. So basically, can you see that first slide, Jason?
Wow, this is very well presented. I like this. Yeah.
Thank you. A lot of these slides have I already did in my 2026 prediction, but I also, you know, I have the private community, and I did a whole presentation or a whole course in there on astrology. So I have some of those slides as well. See, I have the full screen going. I can't see you right now. I can hear you, but I can't see you. So, okay.
That's fine. Well, we can see
So,
you. You and I are on the left column. The public can see us.
okay, awesome. Thank you. So anyway, I'm going to go through all these slides and I'm going to give you my take on it and give you the time frames. And of course, this is going to be recorded on both our channels, so people could always go back to it and, you know, check the information. But this is the main slide that I created about what 2026 is about. As you can see on the left, there's new beginnings. The right side is major disruptions, and that's
Okay.
you know, the chaos in some of these stupid cities, old systems coming down, coming apart, and people's belief systems actually collapsing. And so this is 2026. It's just a glimpse of what 2026 looks like. All right. And I'm sure you see it in the calendrics as well. So let's dive into some of the stuff that I see here. Now, from a numerology standpoint, this is a 1 year. So we take the numbers, we reduce them down into a 10-1. So what does a 1 year represent? It represents this. Okay. Numerology for the year: new beginnings, leadership, innovation, beginnings of new 9-year cycle, individuality, self-reliance, and bold action, pioneering spirit. You know, everything that's associated with the number 1, if you look at it from just a symbolic standpoint, a time to reclaim your power. Very important, folks. Step out of your comfort zone and make bold moves. This is very important. But I took it a step further, Jason. I went into this. Okay. Now, this is an unusual way to kind of look at things, you know, to use tarot and numerology simultaneously to get a better picture. And obviously, each number has a card associated with it. Okay, we have the 2, which is the high priestess. We see the fool as the 0, and then we see the 6 as the lovers, and then overall 10 is the wheel of fortune, and the 1 being the magician. Now, if I didn't know numerology, I would use the tarot here. Look at the 10 here. This is very telling too, Jason. The 10, the wheel of fortune is about cycles and patterns. And what this is suggesting is a new cycle, a new pattern that's evolving here. And this is the magician card, which is about creating, which is mastering. And so on a personal level, we are mastering something in this new cycle. But then when we look at these other cards here, it's very telling as well. We have the high priestess card twice. So this is a card that is about hidden knowledge. It's about psychic ability. It's about the hidden realms. Okay. And then we have this fool going off on a journey, a new venture, something new coming into existence, a new energy, a new frequency, a new way of doing things. And the lover's card is new communication, ideas, technology, science, money systems is under the umbrella of the number 6. So I took it a step further, Jason, to show not just the numerology, but also the astrology. I'll get to the astrology, but the tarot cards. Okay. So it kind of makes sense when you look at this, at least from my perspective anyway. Anyway, let me go in. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, I understand the bridging of the two systems.
Right.
I'm actually listen, to my embarrassment, I bought a very expensive tarot deck after Shanta's done some readings on me. I went ahead and ordered a real nice tarot deck. It comes in a coffin type deal. It's all,
Oh.
you know what? I'm kind of scared to even pull it out. I hadn't even broke the plastic on it.
Did you know they have a deck of cards with the writing on them, Jason? It actually tells you what it means. Each card, it's a yellow deck. One of the decks I bought years and years ago had all the writing on them, so it made it easier to understand. But you know what I did, Jason, is that when I started reading tarot, which is probably around 25 years ago, I took one card a day and I studied the hell out of it, you know, with the books and all that, until I got to understand the card itself. And then after that, it just became easier and easier.
Hey, Shanta's on point on the personal things and personal things that happened out in the field and all that. But it's been very shocking. She, you know, 2 years ago, she nailed some stuff with me in my personal life, and then my whole community actually saw me go through it.
Wow.
So, yeah, she's really good with the tarot. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I saw that video she did, and she's very good. Now, I have an added bonus at the end of this. I have your chart and some of your transits for the year. So if you want me to share that with the community, you know, let me know. If not, that's okay too.
Yeah, she did a reading on me in the future, and somebody else did too. But yeah, we can definitely look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it
I already
very
know
general.
my birth is weird. I already know I started off weird. I mean, I was adopted at 5 years old. I was born underwater. I was born in a bathtub. I didn't have any hospital vaccines. I started very unusual.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, let me go over it. Again, this is the first 4 months of the year, just to give you an idea. And here are the dates that we astrologers are looking at. Now, I do it a little more in depth than most astrologers online. I mean, they do go over charts and dates, but I kind of like listed out here. January 6th, we had Neptune going into Aries, and I'll explain all these terminologies. I have slides for everything, but right now we're in this February time zone. As you can see here, this is very powerful here. We have Saturn that's going to move into Aries, and then we have this major solar eclipse that's going to take hold. Then we have on the 20th, we have the conjunction of Neptune and
so
Saturn.
I know you can't see me, so I just stopped you on February 17th.
Yep.
Isn't the transitional period between February 17th and February 20th also the fire horse period?
Yes, it is. And I didn't include that. I should have, but I figured we'd talk about it anyway. But yes, the fire horse is coming in February.
Okay, cool. So you're on February 20th now.
Yeah. And I mean, the energy, no matter how you look at February, it is probably the biggest month of the year for transitioning energy movement. As you can see here, we have 4. And I didn't even talk about Mercury going retrograde. Now, Mercury is very important because it represents communication and technology, and it happens to be your ruler, Jason. Okay? So anybody who's a Gemini or a Virgo is associated with that planet. And when it goes retrograde, we usually go backwards, or we have mishaps, technology, communication from the past, and our memory starts going into the past. So we have this chaotic energy, and I'll show you with the astrology charts. That is starting off. But then we have this one. This is like icing on the cake. Mars, the god of war, decides to square off with Uranus, the god, the so-called symbol of chaos. So you can see here we have 5 things going on this month that are absolutely showing me and many other astrologers like this is a freaking chaotic month. And we haven't, we're just entering that doorway now. And so let's see what happens. And then we have the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, which happens 2 weeks later. And then this one, April the 15th through the 19th, we have 6 planets in Aries. Talk about fiery, get up and go energy, and this is where I see a lot of stuff really taking hold. And then April the 26th, we have Uranus going into Gemini or re-entering Gemini. So we're looking at a couple of months here, Jason, that are just high energy, surprising, startling, shocking. It's just going to keep coming at us. And so this is what I'm seeing. So let me show you what I'm talking about. By the way, I write a monthly blog on astrology at my Planets With. This is one of 3 websites I have, planetswithin.com. People can read it for free. There's no obligation. Just go to my website. It's under the blogs, and you can read, the whole in-depth about the year of 2026. But let's start off with Saturn and Neptune and these planets. And I'm going to talk about the mythologies behind them as well. So we already had Neptune going back into Aries, and it's staying there. And now we have on the 13th Saturn going there. Now Neptune going into Aries lasts all the way, Jason, to 2039. This is one of the reasons why I think we're going to have a lot of water issues, Jason, because Neptune, as you know, is associated with Poseidon and the god of water. And since we're going to have all of this energy,
he's a lot more than the god of water.
Oh, yeah.
Neptune is Poseidon, but Poseidon is the god of volcanoes and earthquakes as well, as they relate to the sea and water.
And I totally agree with you. And I do have a slide for that too. But look at the time frame that we're talking about here, because what I see from the astrology and from the intuition looking at the field, 2033 on to 2039, this is where I think we're going to have a lot of seismic activity, volcanoes all around the world, not just the United States. And like you're saying, things erupting and just changing in a massive way, especially in the sign of Aries.
It only takes weeks or months to have a vapor canopy, and a vapor is water.
Exactly. That's correct. You're absolutely right. So Neptune is often associated with Pisces when we discovered it in the 1800s. But here is the slide that I use in my in the course. And I'm not going to read all this, but you could see what I outlined here. You know, Poseidon is one of the most significant gods in Greek mythology, known as the god of sea, earthquakes, and horses. Could have included volcanoes as well. He is often depicted as a powerful figure wielding a trident, and his domain includes the vast expansion of the oceans, but also emotions. So you could just see that these myths, and I know you know this, Jason, I'm sure many of your listeners know this, you know, that this is symbolic of an energy, a field of consciousness, a vibration, if you will. And so if we look at it from that perspective, not literally, but just from that perspective, we begin to see something. So Neptune is a very powerful figure here, okay? And then here's just the outlines, again, from my my course online. By the way, this is a free course that I put out on my channel, Jason. Anybody could watch this. I put out the first lessons. They're on my channel. And
I believe I have that link. I believe I posted that link in the description box.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But again, it's just to teach people the basics of astrology so that they're not lost, you know? And so it deals with areas like this: spirituality and mysticism, imagination and creativity, compassion and empathy, illusion and delusion, very important, sacrifice and surrender, escapism and addiction, intuition and psychic sensitivity, idealism and utopian visions. So you could see now that this planet is very significant because it's a planet that is generational. What I mean by that is it affects generations because it stays in each sign for about 14 years or so. Okay. And the thing about your generation, well, I think we're both in the same generation, Generation X, because you were born in 73, Jason, right? So
yes,
we are being influeînced by Neptune in Scorpio. Okay. What does that mean? I do believe you have the Neptune in Scorpio as well. But Scorpio is the underworld. Scorpio is psychic ability. Scorpio is digging deep into the root of a cause. And then you add the element of Neptune's psychic ability coupled with Scorpio. This is why Generation X could see through things. They see through illusions and bullshit. You know, their spidey senses are very strong. Does that make sense, Jason?
Absolutely. I've had quite a few run-ins with Scorpios. I respect them. I respect them profoundly now.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to the sign of Aries. Again, very general, very basic, but I'm going to show you the symbolism. Again, this is from that same course. It's symbolized by the ram. It's very assertive, sexual, able to climb heights, different body parts associated with Aries, which is the head. The lucky day is Tuesday, which we know is the god of war associated with Tuesday. The metal is iron, and the dominant word for most Aries is I am. If you ever want to understand people, because my background is in psychology and understanding human behavior, is you could just listen to what they say about themselves, and you could figure out what sign they are. An Aries will always say, I am. I am. You know, and since you hear that like 5 times, you go, this guy or this person must have something in Aries, you know, because they keep saying, I am, I am.
So anyway, would it be a Gemini trait? Because one of my traits when I'm listening to people, they don't even know they don't even know I'm doing this, but is it a Gemini trait that I try to pay attention as people are telling me about themselves. I'm trying to pay attention to what they're not telling me, what they're not saying. Obvious gaps in narratives is what I'm always, I just can't, I just do it naturally. And not just when people are telling me about themselves, but telling me another story. Because often what people go out of their way not to say tells me a whole lot more about them than what they've conveyed. So,
Actually, Jason, it's your rising sign in Virgo.
oh, that's what it is?
Yeah. Virgo is the skeptic. Virgo is the analyst. Now, Gemini is very smart. Don't get me wrong, but they'll gloss over, details. The Virgo side of the, Mercury side is more analytical. And so it is, this is why you've always been skeptical. This is why you are very analytical and you want to know how things really work. And so it's more your rising sign. And when I get to your chart at the end, I'll explain it to you. But that's cool. That's a good point, though. But let's go into real quickly what Mars represents. Aries was the Greek god, and Mars in the Roman. So in Greek mythology, Aries is the god of war, violence, and bloodshed. Aries is the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and Hera, the queen of the gods. Aries is often depicted as a violent and impulsive deity, rivaling in chaos and destructive war. He is typically portrayed as being ruthless and bloodthirsty, enjoying battle for his own sake rather than any noble cause. I mean, look at the symbolism of this character, of this mythology, and you could see this in human behavior. And I'll give you a perfect example here, Jason. Look at these symbols. Do they not remind you of Aries energy?
Yep, they do.
You got the ram. You got football where people line up to butt heads. You got boxing. You got war. I mean, this is an amazing. When I discovered this years ago, Jason, I was dumbfounded. I just said, because I didn't really believe in any of the astrology or any of that stuff when I was growing up studying psychology. I would just say, yeah, it's just BS. But then when I put it together and I realized the symbolism behind it, I'm like, whoever created this knew what the hell they were doing. They understood the cycles and patterns. And so
I don't know if anybody necessarily created it. I feel that, well, I guess it would have to be created, but I think that we're dealing with complex programming on a multi-dimensional level. It couldn't be something as simple as a computer simulation. What we're in, and what I've told my community is, look, man, we say simulation and simulation hypothesis only because that's a modern frame of reference that people can process. But we're really talking about something interdimensional that is so fascinating, but it's still some type of a simulacrum. And it would be predicated on a massive amount of programming. And I believe astrology taps straight into this programming field.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is absolutely interdimensional. But again, whoever or whatever, put this together, highly intelligent, highly intelligent. So anyway, let's go into the charts and I'll show you this without making it too complicated. Here is the United States' chart in the middle here. It has a Sagittarius rising, and a lot of my viewers have seen this so many times, but I know many of your viewers on your side might not have seen it. But here is the sun in the 7th house and the moon, which is very significant in the sign of Aquarius at 27 degrees. So when we look at, this is how astrologers do it. We look at where the planet is. Look, here's Neptune in the sign of Aries, entering 0 degrees of Aries at 0 degrees minutes past the hour. So when we look at predictions, Jason, and we're trying to make predictions, we look at what house that sign is activating or what it's doing. We look at how it's interacting with other planets, and then we look to the actual chart that it may be affecting. So for instance, here it is, Neptune in the 3rd house of communication. And I wrote this down. The 3rd house in astrology represents communication, intellect, local community, education. It's the house ruled by Gemini and Mercury. It governs how we think, process information, express thoughts through writing, speaking, digital media. Now, what is actually happening? Saturn and Neptune have been in the 3rd house of communication. What has been changing? Our technology has advanced over the last bunch of years, right? We're seeing different ways of communicating with ourselves. We're seeing new technology being implemented in the digital currency. We're seeing all of that now. And it was hidden in the realms because it was in Pisces. Pisces is very nebulous energy. You know, it's foggy, a bit confusing, and we saw it in the shadows. Now that the energy has switched into this fiery get up and go sign of Aries, it's being brought very, very fast into our lives. Does that make sense? And we're seeing it for what it is. Now, the interesting thing, Jason, is as I continue to show you these slides, this entire third house of communication is going to be lit up because all the planets are going to be moving in here. And we're going to see a lot of information overriding, you know, the United States. It's going to come at us very fast this year, from new technology to new information, and we're not going to be able to keep up with it.
Well, you know, a year ago, there were IT giants a year ago on social media warning people. And I remember watching a clip where somebody was talking to Elon Musk and saying, listen, until it actually happens, you're not even going to believe. He says within 2 years, AI is going to take over the entire music industry. It's going to take over the movies, Hollywood. He says actors and actresses are bailing because they already see the writing on the wall. They know what's happening. He said we're allowing a lot of things in social media right now only because it's information harvesting. He says but very, very soon, within 2 years, you will see an AI takeover of the internet. And he even told Elon Musk that you would think people would complain about it, but when it happens, they're actually gonna like it.
You are absolutely correct, Jason. And you know, I've watched a lot of those interviews as well, and that's what I'm seeing here in the United States. This overwhelming amount of information and technology that's going to be unleashed on us. And we're not going to be able to keep up. So don't even think it's going to be possible. It'll be amazing, you know, the holographic technology, reading our minds, which is already happening now.
Well, they're already flooding the zone right now with all these narratives, so making sure that they are fulfilling some type of obligation to inform the public on all these nefarious things that we believed were happening anyway. But at the same time, they're flooding the zone, which is a media tactic, in order to tell us so much stuff that the real things that they have to divulge, but they don't really want the public to catch on to, they're being released too in pieces. But by the time we put the dot connectors get together and put all this together, it's already 6 months down the line. It's too late.
That's right, exactly. And so it definitely is being indicated here in the field with the astrology in the United States. But there's a lot more, and I'll just keep going. But here is an overview of what each one of these houses represents. And this is a perfect slide, you know, if somebody wants to study astrology right here of how the houses work. And so, you know, somebody could download this file or take a screenshot of it, you know, on the replay. But you could see here, and I'm not going to go over all this, but you could see the first house is associated with identity and the physical appearance, self-esteem, money, value, material side of life, the thinking, the home, the roots, the financial, the psychological foundation, creativity, entertainment. You know, you could read this, but I'm showing you this because we're going to go into more slides. And so this is a really good indicator of how to understand the house, which is basically the constellation and the foundation of that house. Okay. And so this helps out a lot. So let's go
before you go on to this next slide, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm looking at the second house right here.
Yep.
Resources, resourcefulness, self-esteem. Okay. It's not in direct opposition, but it's in tangential opposition with house 7. Okay.
No, it's opposite 8, Jason.
Yeah, that's what I said. Direct opposition. I said it's not in direct opposition, but it's close. Do you see 7? Yeah. 7's not quite the opposite of it. But if you go back a slide. Go back one slide. We have clustering. No. Go back to the chart, the astrology chart. Right here. Okay. We have clustering right here in these two areas. What does this clustering right here have anything to do with what's going? Is it a counterpoint, or does it add value to what's already happening here?
Which house which number are you looking at? Number 2?
I'm looking at number 7. There's a lot of clustering in number 7 and some in 8. That's opposite of 2.
Okay, let me explain it. This is the chart of the United States where the planets were at the time of the birth of the United States.
1776.
Right, exactly. There it is right there. This is where the alignments were. The 7th house has to do with partnerships, relationships. This cluster does not change. And so we have Mars in Gemini, which is all about communication, Venus in Cancer, which is all about land, Jupiter in Cancer, which is also about land, and the sun was in Cancer, all about land as well. Okay. I was going to get into the aspects a little later, but here we also have how it pertains to the second house. Notice all the planets right now transiting the second house, Jason, and they are making, as you can see here, look, Mars is at 2 degrees of Aquarius, and it is making a connection to Venus at 3 degrees, and it will be exact in about a day or so. And that has a significance. Yes, it does.
So is this chart actually showing, if we were to overlay this with right now in the next 6 months, are you suggesting that this is like a rebirth of the United States? Is this like
absolutely?
Is this like we're about to go through something, but it's going to result in a rebirth?
Yes, absolutely. And this had a lot to do with this planet in the second house. Here's Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees of Capricorn at 33 minutes past the hour at the time of the birth of the United States. We had Pluto there the last couple of years. So the rebirth actually started a few years ago. We started to see things dissolving and being exposed. We saw the financial system, the Wall Street criminals being exposed. We see the criminality in government and how they're, using money to fund all kinds of weird operations around the world. So it's been happening. So now that Pluto has entered Aquarius, the sign of humanity, it has a lot to do with the United States and the values that people have placed on power, politicians, banks, corporations. This is what it symbolically represents. So it's a rebirth. It's a death and rebirth of the people of the country. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, it's well, if we're going to paint the present with the same brush as the past, then we're what was on the mindset of the people of the past was being free from foreign taxation oppression.
Exactly. And we're going to have a revolt here as well with the tax system, because we know it's a criminal enterprise, And so
damn, I hope you're right, man, because I'm about to crap out a lot of money to the IRS. So yeah, I've already been in contact with them. Listen, I hope you're right. But you know what? I'm not going to do the dumb shit other people have done and hold out because they think, every year something's going to happen. I'm going to try to hear that. I'm taking care of all that right now. I just hope I get a coupon.
And I don't blame you. And I don't blame you. But this is the second house of income and values, just like the chart was indicating. But these planets, especially Pluto, I want you to notice it's at 3 degrees exactly, making an exact alignment to Venus at 3 degrees. Venus represents partnerships and money. But it's not a great alignment. This is what's called an inconjunct, 150 degrees away, and it's almost exact. So there's an adjustment taking place with our values, our finances, our taxes, and the people of the nation. You see, but it's a confusing alignment. A 150 degree inconjunct is a confusing alignment. So what do we see today in society, Jason? People are not sure whether they're coming or going. What they, should they pay their taxes? Should they not? Should they get a raise? Should they, buy currency? Should they buy gold?
We're suspended between two systems. We have the fiat currency attached to our credit cards, and we have this rising cryptocurrency that has so many question marks about it. We just, we're trapped in between. So
exactly.
I think they're going to bridge them.
Oh, absolutely. I've said we're going to have multiple currencies and look for the one that's actually backed by gold. That'll be the one that rises up, but this is a perfect indication from the astrology, Pluto in conjunct Venus right there. Okay. And so these other ones here, this is Mercury in Cancer. And transiting Jupiter now is in Cancer as well, but they're both retrograde. The little R there, which means going back, going within, and it adds more uncertainty to the mix. But this is
I didn't really mean to interrupt your whole deal. I saw when you were giving this presentation on this slide, I saw the clustering, and I said, man, those are opposite each other. I wonder how that would affect.
Jason, I've got nowhere to go today. We could stay on this podcast for 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, no, don't tempt me with a good time. I'm known to go 9 hours straight.
I've seen some of your 3.5 hour, 4 hour presentations.
Yeah.
But anyway,
3.5 hours is about as far as I'll go on a real important deal. But on holidays like Christmas time, you wouldn't
right.
believe how many people came out and hung out with me on Christmas. I went
Oh,
9 hours and 15 minutes. I said, as long as you guys keep hanging out, I'll keep going. And we hung out for 9 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. It's definitely time flies when you're having fun, or you're stimulated, or you're enjoying yourself. And I totally get that, But yeah, just interrupt me, because again, Jason, I can't see you. So, if you have questions, by all means, just stop, and let me know. But so getting back to Neptune here, we see Neptune, since we're talking about aspects, at 0 degrees. Look at what it's starting to do, Jason. It's starting to make an alignment to that same Venus. And eventually it'll make it to that to Jupiter. And this is all going to be this year. And so once this crosses over this threshold here into the 4th house, which has to do with the home, the feeling, the foundation, this is going to change the United States. And then when Saturn enters that house as well, and I have slides for all this too, it's going to change the dynamics of the United States fundamentally. And especially as they keep inching this way, they'll be making a hard aspect, which is what we call a square in astrology. And these are much more significant, Jason. And so what we have is timelines, or, patterns that we could literally see when events have the possibility of manifesting, you see? And I do have those slides as well. And so, but anyway, this chart really is helpful to understand the dynamics of the foundation of the house, So, so this is what it actually means. Neptune in Aries. It's revolution. It's freedom. It's change. It's transition. It's innovation. It's aggression. It's determination. It's bold action. It's survival. It's shifting boundaries. It's awakening independence. And
that's
this has
what 1776 embodied all this, because those men put their names on a contract that made them traitors to the crown.
That's right.
So it was basically a situation. We're going to put our signatures on this document, but we can all get hung for doing it if the people don't come together and form a militia to help us fight for the very freedom that we're declaring that we have before we even fought for it.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things I've been advocating is for people to wake up and see how they give their power away, whether it's to an institution or a religion or a belief. We have to stop that. We have to come together and give, do away with these stupid titles: Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. It's, you're an American, you live in America, you're an American, start basically, speaking up for your rights as an American, not some party or some gender or whatever it is you think you are, but this will help out. But I'm glad you brought up 1776, because I have a whole slide on when Uranus enters Gemini. And the last 3 times it entered Gemini, and I'll get to that too. But this is generally speaking what the energy is reflective of, Jason, Neptune and Aries, because we're talking about Aries, the god of war. We're talking about Neptune, or Poseidon, the god of water and volcanoes, So you combine the two symbolism, and you see this energy that's evolving. This emotional, sort of fiery, get up and go kind of energy is being activated. Okay. And so this is what I'm seeing here. Then we go into Saturn. Now I think you're going to enjoy this Saturn presentation, because I have a whole bunch of slides on this, including some of this stuff from Jordan Maxwell. Okay. And I did this presentation about Saturn many, many years ago in Sedona, where I was showing people that Saturn is much more than a planet, and how it's being worshipped and how they're still using it today. And so I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to put the tinfoil hat on, Jason, for a little
Saturn,
bit.
Isn't Saturn the focus of like Michael Tessarion and others? I don't know too much about Michael Tessarion's, because I don't subscribe to his. I'm not behind his paywall, so I don't know. I was impressed with the conversation he and I had, but I do know that he goes into a lot of Saturn material.
Well, wait until you see this one. And a lot of your viewers probably already know it. Some of mine know it. But right now, I'm going to focus on the astrology, but look at the dates here. April the 12th, 2028. We have Saturn entering that fiery sign of Aries once again and staying there this time. And Saturn was often Capricorn, the sea goat. But before we discovered Uranus, Saturn was also influencing Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius, the ancient ruler of Aquarius. And so let me quickly go into this. As you know, Kronos and Saturn, one and the same in the mythology. In Greek mythology, Kronos, also spelled Kronos, was one of the Titans, the divine beings who ruled the cosmos before the reign of the Olympian gods. He was the youngest of the Titans, born to Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. So we're looking at this symbol here of an old man. Usually it's depicted like this, carrying a baby, and has the sickle there. And it's symbolic of something. Okay, look at Saturn's rings. And I think I mentioned this last time we talked. I said Saturn represents this restriction or this karma or this effort that needs to be put in, especially when you read the mythology behind this symbol. But look at this picture here. You know, this man is clipping the wings of a new baby. What is that suggesting? It's suggesting that because Saturn or Kronos represents time, what's the thing that we do not have in this world, Jason, that we cannot stop? Right? Time.
It's time.
Right. So this is symbolic of Saturn influencing time and effort and doing things the hard way. Holding the baby, it symbolically represents you are born into this reality and your clock is ticking. You are under my influence of time. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so it's even deeper than that, Jason. A lot of what's happening in the world that we're discovering from those files that were released and all of these, the pedo stuff, I'm trying to be careful with my words here, and all the sacrificing and all that other garbage is symbolic of this sign right here. It's almost as if these psychopaths that run the planet are trying to stop time or appease some sort of God in some way.
Well, you remember a few years back, we
Mhm.
got some really cryptic drops about the Project Looking Glass, and this would have been them. This would have been the power brokers of our world using a technology that to look into the past, and every simulation they ran, every way they looked at it, every time they started over, introduced new material that they thought would change the outcome, no matter what happened, they saw that in the next 15 years, we are not going to stop the whole entire population from waking up to all the BS that we've been doing. So
Exactly.
and then after that, I mean, after we found out about all that, what did they do? They started scrubbing that material. Now it's hard to find those videos.
I totally agree with you. I've been noticing this for the longest time, telling my community you can't do the same research you could back in the late 1990s and 2000. That's where I got my major lessons there, because you had everything and anything. The internet was totally unfiltered. The books were readily available, and you could cross-reference everything. Now you can't do that.
Yeah, they've got newer versions of published books that they have changed entire chapters out. I just showed that to my community recently with William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. There's another publishing company releasing copies of that and not telling everybody that they switched out chapter 11 or chapter 13, which used to be the protocols, and now it's just some weird random story they just threw in as a chapter.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It kind of makes you wonder how many other books they've done that too.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct. But this is very symbolic of the energy of Saturn and what it represents. It represents restrictions. And I also took the liberty here of, I found this slide online and I checked it out, and it seems to be accurate. And I also, you're going to like this, I ran this across our dear friend Kim. Okay. And I know what I'm talking about. And, and she went over this because she's a smart lady and knows all about the ancient gods, from the Sumerian and Babylonian times. Right. And so she said, this is pretty accurate. There's some stuff here that is not so accurate. I mean, when you look at this, Jason, does this seem to have, accuracy to it? Because I'm not an expert in Sumerian, Akkadian, and, the Mesopotamian gods.
Well, let's see. Enki was called Ea. He was god of waters and did represent heaven and became Uranus. Nana is sin. The problem with Nana in Sumerian is a goddess. The problem being though is Sin and Akkadian was a male, and okay. It's really interesting. It's really interesting at that period, in between the 4th and 3rd millennium BC. you know, the sun in Asian Eastern country, the sun was regarded as female and the moon was male in the East. In the West, the sun was male and the moon was feminine, was female. So
Hmm.
this was back then. But yeah, Utu Shamash, that's the sun. Inanna, Ishtar, Venus. I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Miss Morgan. Yeah, she's she's something else.
Yes, she is.
She's something else. She knows her shit.
She absolutely knows her stuff. And, you know, I ran this by her. Matter of fact, here's her blog. And if you don't mind, a shameless plug for her, because she's starting to write some fantastic material on these ancient cultures. And I totally encourage her. You know, I was like, keep doing it because you've got information that eventually is going to be lost, you know, and you're not going to be able to find it.
I told her I straight up told her in an email recently because we were going through some material and I just told her, no, as a matter of fact, I think it was in Archaix Underground. I had told her, I said, look, listen, with your intelligence, and you already know she's beautiful. I says, your blog, your YouTube channel would be off the charts. People would be listening to you. But
exactly.
She's just a private individual.
Yeah, and I totally get that, you know. But anyway, I'm hoping that she becomes more public and tries to get this information out because there's many of us out there that really do want to know. You know, your community, I'm sure, would love to know what she has to say about it. You know, and tying it all together. So, but anyway, I thought that was really interesting. But here is the general overview of what Saturn represents: discipline and hard work, responsibility and duty, structure and order, limitations and boundaries, authority and authority figures, time and aging, fear and insecurity, karma and lessons. Okay. So, I mean, that's about as descriptive as I could get with Saturn, the symbolism of Saturn. And so here we see it in the United States, this chart, Jason, right here, going into Aries once again. And both of these are going to stay in Aries once again, that third house. And so if Saturn represents sort of these structures and foundations, it's suggesting to me as an astrologer that some new foundations are being built, some new infrastructure, some new technological infrastructures are all being built. What's being built around the country, around the world? Data centers, you know?
Right.
And so this is the foundation, which Saturn represents. Saturn in astrology signifies building structures, discipline, maturity, new beginnings. You know, it's everything here that I wrote about what it symbolically represents. And so we see personal growth. We see overcoming fear, transforming fiery urges into tangible long-term achievements. That's what it represents, depending on where this is in one's chart. So here we see, again, another planet here now beginning to make this alignment to Venus. And it will happen this year, too, and I'll cover that.
What?
But you're getting the gist of what I'm showing you here. This third house of communication is being lit up. And it's going to be lit up even more when we get to the eclipse.
Hey, I'm currently. I know you probably can't see the screen or see me.
I can't.
I'm in the middle of embarrassing Kim right now because she posted a comment and I threw it up for the whole world to see.
Oh,
she's gonna come out of her shell and she's gonna start a podcast or something.
I hope she does because I think her information is fantastic. Matter of fact, what I just did, Jason, is I have my cell phone running the live stream. So if you need to show anything, I could see it now because I have the phone running. Okay.
So I've been getting embarrassed all my life. I don't mind embarrassing other people.
I don't blame you. It's funny because on my let me see here. Let me go to your channel. Hold on one second, Jason. I'm doing, there you are. I could see you now. So this is what's going on here in the United States, and we astrologers could see this. But let's go to the big event here, and this is what I think is going to be the big reset moment here, when both of these planets are exactly conjunct in the sign of Aries, and this is on February the 20th, right after the eclipse. So here we see it right here. See Saturn and Neptune, 0 degrees of Aries at 45 minutes past the hour exactly. So in astrology, when we have a planet starting off, especially an outer planet, starting off at the very first degree of Aries, it absolutely signifies a new beginning. And the last time this occurred, and it's very hard to track, but some astrologers have done it, went back about 4600 BC, Jason. 4600 BC. Isn't that when the world started? Or the
Oh,
world as we know it?
well, it's the very first 600-year period. From
Exactly.
5239 BC is when the Anuna Sumerian calendar begins, and you can
Mhm.
trace it every 600 years. And the very first 600-year period ends, and the next one begins right there at 4600 BC.
Exactly. So this is symbolic of something new coming into being here, because Saturn is the manifester through hard work, and the spiritual realm is represented by Neptune. And they're in the first sign of the zodiac. It's almost as if it's saying, humanity, you're going to change. You're going to start from scratch. You're going to start anew again in some way. That's how I would interpret this, on a personal level and a societal level. But since we're focusing on the United States' chart, once again, it's in this third house. Okay. So it's
Okay.
communication, how we communicate, how we think, how we process information, all of that stuff. And so this is going to be huge, and it starts this month on the 20th. And so this is going to be something we need to pay attention. It wouldn't surprise me, Jason, that we have all kinds of announcements or maybe outages or, major significant things that are going to be put forth or, in the news or having to do with technology or internet. It would not surprise me one bit. And that's
Right.
only a few weeks away. Okay. So it's the Great Reset in the United States, and it begins this month. Okay. That's my take on it. But of course, we also have this, the criminals that run the planet, also calling it the Great Reset. But they have more nefarious. Go ahead.
I can. I want to address this real quick about the WEF.
Okay.
So I want to hit you with a scenario.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not true, but it's something that's been tickling the back of my mind for a couple of years.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, we can't think that the entire world will be a captured operation, because there's a benefactor force at play somewhere that allows most of us to still speak our mind. We're still free. We're still able to do things. Yeah, we don't like the conditions of our lives. Yeah, we don't like the oppressive taxes, but I'm still free to do what the hell I want to do. I can leave my property anytime, go anywhere I want, meet who I want. I can travel. So there's still many, many freedoms. So I have to say that a benefactor force is out there. So if I'm an ancient family, and yeah, okay, so what I have vices, so what I have these weird proclivities, but I've also tried to benefit the human family as much as I could when I'm up against another monolithic family that's always trying to take. But my power, which is ancient and financial, also allows me to keep them in check a little bit. And I'm wondering, do you see a scenario where maybe there's a benefactor at work that's powerful enough to keep these bastards, these child catchers, and from actually taking over the whole world, and they actually have false fronts that get the public into believing a lot of evil, nefariousness is taking place when it's all theater. And it allows them, and because people are believing it and their attention is directed at all this theater, the real power moves internationally are being moved, without they're not really detected, because it's so much misdirection. Because I can't process one group ruling the entire world, because in that scenario the world would be a fundamentally different place, but that's not the place we're living.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense. But I also think about, these people want to keep their wealth. They're going to need workers,
Yes.
and so they need a population to be somewhat happy and content or distracted in order for them to continue their wealth, giving people some crumbs in order to benefit themselves. But the benefactor, yeah, absolutely. This entire universe is a polarity, up, down, black, white, positive, negative. So there has to be some force, balancing out all the darkness. And now this is where we kind of go into this extraterrestrial realm. And again, none of us could prove it, but it may exist where we have either different races or interdimensional beings that are trying to help.
I'm way more comfortable talking about dimensions than I am talking about us
Okay.
having ever developed technology to put everybody on the moon, anybody on the moon.
Right.
I'm so anti-lunar. I'm prejudiced against the moon, bro.
I hear you. I totally hear you. But it makes more sense that there's interdimensional activity taking place, and that there are races that want to see us evolve. Now, what I've come to the conclusion from my own research is that the entire universe, I mean, actually the entire planet, is some sort of petri dish, that we've been influenced by many different races or interdimensional beings. That's what I kind of makes sense. It makes the most sense to me. And they're watching us, or they're influencing us in some way through a frequency or a way of thinking in some way. That makes the most sense. And I can only, share with you some of the crazy visions I've had over the years, which made no sense, about beings that, I've never seen before, but really weird. But I can't say that's credible. I can't say that's real because I don't know, but yes, there must be some benefactor here that doesn't want to destroy the planet, destroy the human beings. But yet there's another race that wants to sterilize and, contain humanity in some way. We know that, and of course, if they did implement this Phoenix object as well, if it gets too out of hand, they'll just reset everything completely, as you've talked about before in the past. But as far as this benefactor, Jason, I mean, the only thing I could think of is the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is the god of good fortune and luck. And, it sort of protects us in the atmosphere, or the simulacrum, or whatever the hell is up there, from asteroids and other bodies that could do harm. So Jupiter has always been known as the god of benevolence and, the supreme god. And so I would say somehow the frequency of Jupiter is influencing humanity in some way, in a beneficial way. I can't prove it, but this is the theory. This is the mindset. But then beyond that, it's a race or a group of races, interdimensional, that are trying to keep everything in check. That's the only way I could view it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. There's going to have to be a checks and balances. My point was not so much that there's two opposing factions, and we can call them good and evil. We could,
Right.
but that even some of what is publicized as evil is really a front. I mean, think about it. This is a mind F, but we've already seen enough proof to know that many of the very violent episodes that we fell for years ago, every member of that, every face we saw, people have done the tracing, they've done the facial recognition. They're all Actors Guild, and they've been seen in other psyops. And it's the same, it's like this, and they trade them out. And we've already seen the masks the politicians wear. They even give us the tells. They show us. We just went through a presidency for 4 years, and they ran us through 5 Bidens. So it begs the question: Is there a concerted effort to make us believe that things are far more evil or far more gone than they actually are?
Oh, I totally agree with that. But think about the limitations that humanity has been placed in, especially through religions, Jason. Look at what people are believing in, okay? Whether it's Judaism or Christianity.
I know.
They're believing in stories that have been so watered down and so distorted over time that they believe that their Messiah is going to come back to save them. They believe that, somebody was actually crucified on a cross, and this is their belief system. So if you were to just interject what we kind of know, or talk about interdimensional beings and reptilians and all this other stuff, the psychosis that would be created immediately with their religious beliefs would go right out the window, and you would have people literally cracking. You would have them lose their marbles. And there's going to be some of that too coming up. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but they were slowly spoon feeding humanity information to get them to see how they react, to get to see how they would interact. And I hate to say this, 75% of the population is just a filler. They are just going through life in the most simplistic way possible. Work, sleep, watch TV, have a few beers, and go to sleep. You know, this is their simple existence. Or if they live in another country, you know, they raise food and take care of their families. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not belittling it. I'm not denigrating it at all. But there's a simplicity to most of the population, Jason.
Yeah,
And it's
I
only
agree.
about 10 to 15% of us that want to know more, that we know there's something more. We know that, you know, this world is not what we think it is, as you often said. And we ask questions and we look outside the box. We look within ourselves and we question it all. And so I think that theater that you're talking about is really being directed at that 70 to 75% to keep them from losing their marbles, to keep them in a state of consciousness that they don't look outside. Because when they wake up, it causes massive shifts in the simulacrum, massive shifts in the consciousness, you know, and they don't want that, because it would ripple into these other dimensions. It would destroy things. So I think that's what they've been doing. And I think that's why all these corporations have been set up and all this fake money systems have been set up, is to keep us occupied, to keep us distracted, never to advance. Go ahead.
Since we don't have any time constraints, most of my guests tell me, you know, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours to wrap it up. So since we don't, and you're at ease at going through your presentation interrupted, I have another thing to bring to your attention. I would like your take on this. So about 4 years, I released a video because it just, the evidence to me was showing that I was going through all these CEOs posts, and anybody who follows my X page will see something very obvious about my X deal. When you go onto my Twitter page, you will see, although I have like 36 or 37,000 followers because I post all my research on there, I'm only following like less than 40 people or something like that. And if you click on to go see who I'm following some of the greatest minds in machine learning, deep learning, posterior analytics, date sequence, predictive analytics. And I follow these people because they're not plugged in with society. Most people in society have no idea of the conversations that are going on among these CEOs and what they're talking about, how the next technologies, because they speak in terms of quarters. Right. They know that society changes on a quarterly basis, and that there's 4 fundamentals each year, and they're in deep competition with each other. So this is my point. About 4 years ago, I had started telling in a series of over 10 to 12 videos, I was explaining to my community that I foresee this is the world that's going to happen about a decade to 12 years before 2040. I still believe it. And it's that they've already got the technology in place. They just don't have the data servers necessary to do it. But they're going to flip the economy in such a way that people are going to be shocked. I said this 4 years ago. Two things are going to happen at the same time. They're going to unleash a metaverse like we have never seen before, with a headset technology that's cerebral interface, meaning you can feel the pleasure. You can even dial down the pain or whatever, but it's going to be so realistic. You can even do banking and finances in this alternate reality, and it's going to be something people are going to wake up in the mornings and want to put their headset on, and they're going to go through. It's going to get to the point where people are so addicted, people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who want to live like a teenager again, who want to feel like it is to be 22 years old again. They're going to be able to do all kinds of things, but it's going to be an alternate reality, a virtual reality that has police. You have to obey the law in there as well. And to sign up for all kinds of weird experiences and stuff, you have to go to special areas in there. And I was reporting this 4 years ago that there's already Fortune 500 companies that have their employees doing their work and being paid real paychecks, but they're doing their work in this alternate reality already. And Facebook Metaverse was merging with several other large IT gaming systems, and they were putting together this massive world. And their intent is to do two things at once. They want to debut this world for people to enjoy, and it's not even about 15-minute cities. The 15-minute cities are going to be created automatically by people's participation in this alternate reality, because people are going to be having fun, because now a new economy is going to subsidize their ability to just spend all their time in an alternate reality. It's when the government is now paying your bills, your utility, your water, and all that. And now you don't even want to go out to restaurants. People are going to get addicted to this. And this is what they're banking on. You'll still be free. You can go out to the mall. You can go to restaurants. You can do all kinds of things. But the majority of the population are going to get lost in an alternate reality. And the biggest cataclysm that's going to happen in the future is going to be a psychological and emotional one, when this entire infrastructure of fantasy collapses and people lose everything that they built in this alternate reality. This is what I painted 4 years ago. I still think we're heading to that, and I think switching the economy over in some way where people are going to panic is actually going to get assuaged by introducing a new technology that people are going to be able to participate in.
I think you're correct. I mean, we saw some of that in some of the movies, the sci-fi movies over the years, like Total Recall and all these, you know.
Oh, in the 80s, 1980s?
Yeah, exactly. They put that out in the field back then. They knew it was coming, you know? And so what you're picking up on is correct. And I absolutely see that as a possibility here with the astrology, because these outer planets are moving into the high-tech arena. And Neptune is what you just described, living in this fantasy land or this fantasy world in our minds. That's what Neptune represents. You see? So you are, I think, right on target with your overview of what the future holds. And it's going to accelerate at that rapid rate where, yes, I mean, look at us now. We're almost addicted to our phones. There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't look at that damn phone.
Hell,
you know?
yeah.
And so now just imagine what you're saying, you know, have a headset or glasses or something you put on and you're in another freaking world. And by the way, you mentioned one of the movies, which I thought was fantastic, The Free Guy.
I haven't watched that in years, but I did mention that a few years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. That movie, when I first saw it and when it first came out, I said, holy crap, this is what they want. This is what the future is going to be like. If you guys haven't seen it, you should absolutely see it. It's with Ryan Reynolds, and it is absolutely giving you a glimpse of what the future holds, and very close within the next 5 to 10 years, you know, if not sooner.
Right.
So
yes.
That's the Great Reset. You know,
there was what put my mind on it was a book I read in the 90s, but the book was written in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember the author. He's famous. I've read like 4 of his books. It's not Richard Heinlein. It's not Isaac Asimov. It might be Asimov. I can't remember who it was, but he wrote a book called Ender's Game. And they made a movie out of it, and the movie's fantastic. But in Ender's Game, they raised these kids to be fleet admirals for starships, and the people of the world don't even really know how advanced the governments have gotten. They've kept the people blind. The people of the world don't even know an alien civilization has already entered the solar system, and they're doing military simulations, and they're getting these genius kids to sit in these simulators and control fleets. Well, they get Ender. Ender's this kid, and he's genius, and he's way better than all the other kids. And in the show, he's going through all the flight simulations, but in order for him to actually be used by the military as an asset, he has to pass this final test. So they build him up for 3 or 4 years doing all these simulations on how the aliens think and how they've uploaded all the material on alien theory and on everything they know about the alien pilots and everything. And in the end, Ender, this little boy Ender, he passes the test, and it's way worse than he thought it was going to be. But he ends up outsmarting the aliens in what he thought was a simulation. But the military didn't tell him that the end test was the actual battle, in that they had trained him for this, and he's the only one, because his mind was mathematical and analytical, and he was the only one that if he didn't allow his emotions to cloud his judgment through fear or whatever, and just treated it as a mathematical exercise, he was Earth's best hope in defending against the alien species. It was a badass movie. It's called Ender's Game, but the final test was actually the real battle.
I'll have to check it out. Absolutely. But everything we're describing here is absolutely in the cards here, or in the field for this year, beginning this year.
I believe it.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's a reset no matter how you see it. That's what I'm saying here. It starts this month, it accelerates in April, and then it just takes off either in July and August of this year. And then 2027, 2028, it just keeps going faster and faster and faster is what I'm seeing. And so, and they all know this because they've done all of the testing and the Project Looking Glass, the calendrics, the astrology, whatever you want to call it. They know all of this, the ones that run the world, or at least are trying to run the world. But let me talk about this. Now, I think you'll find this interesting. You might already know some of this. Now, I actually met Jordan Maxwell at a conference one day. And we talked for a little bit. He was a nice man, very quiet, and then a few years later, he just passed away. But his information, he really got me started on this years ago. But, can you see that screen, Jason? Do you see what Saturn actually represents here? We see it has this hexagram object at the top of the actual planet. But right. Judaism is often associated with Saturn or Satan. This is what Maxwell was talking about. And he's not that far off. Judaism pays homage to Saturn, the planet of organization, control, restriction, all of these things associated with Saturn. It's often depicted as a black cube. And I think you're going to find this very interesting. The most important holy day of the week for the Jewish faith is Saturday, which is Saturn's day, Sabbath, the Sabbath day, Shabbat, Shalom. Everything with the Jewish religion is about worshiping Saturn or Satan. Okay.
And by extension, those other religions that Judaism has created.
Exactly. But it even goes a little further than that. Well, here's the Sabbath. It's actually the worship of planet of Saturn, but also the Islam faith.
I'd rather you say it than me, but that's exactly what was on my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I realized this years ago watching Jordan's work, I'm like, wait a second here. These people, I don't know if they realize, but they're worshiping the black cube, which is Saturn. Now, why are they worshiping Saturn? Because Saturn is the great planet of manifesting in this reality. And I've said this before, I've come to this conclusion through David Icke's work and many others, is that whatever those rings are doing, they're holding a certain frequency. And it seems to be connected to the moon, according to David Icke, and the Earth's magnetic fields. So in order to worship Saturn and to manifest in this reality, somehow, or some homage or some, worship of Saturn is what these tribes or the Jews or whatever you want to call them realize. And so, it kind of makes sense to me. I think it makes sense to you as well and your listeners, that this is why we have all this worship of these black cubes and why we have Judaism the way it is, and you take it for what it's worth, but the symbolism is all there. Then when we go, and this you'll find very interesting, Jason, because it ties into geometry, which is the building block of light and sound. And I noticed, years ago that I realized the connection with all of this stuff. As you can see here, there's the pentagram or the hexagram right there, the six-sided inside the Merkaba or the tetrahedron. Here is Metatron's cube. And the Jewish people, or whoever these people are that have been worshiping or created Judaism, understand this. I know the Persians understand this. I have a great respect for the Persian people and the Iranian people because they understood the mathematics of all this, Jason, and they're the ones that, started Zoroastrianism. As you pointed out, all of the religions we know today started from Zoroastrianism.
Yep. It's where most of the Old Testament comes from.
Exactly. And so they understood the physics behind manifesting in this reality. And so this Star of David is not really the Star of David. It's much deeper than that. they use it as manifesting energy or focusing the light or the energy into a direction. That's what they're doing. And so this is why
can
we
I
have.
give you an interesting theory real quick?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, so the 5-pointed star
Mhm.
is 10 equidistant angles of 108 degrees each, forming the number 1080. 1080 was an old lunar number. So
Mhm.
we have this 5-pointed star that in 2 dimensions is 5 equidistant points for a pentagram. But if you take that pentagram and turn it into a 3-dimensional figure, you have 4 cornerstones forming a square, and one at the apex. You have your pyramid. So the pyramid becomes representative of terrestrial geometry. But if you add one more point to that, in 2 dimensions, it becomes what you see. The hexagram right here. This six-sided polygon. However, this 6-sided polygon is it doesn't have the same meaning as the pentagram. The pentagram is a portal number. It identifies the Great Pyramid as a doorway, as a gate, as a portal, just the same thing that's hidden underneath the blocks. That the Muslims remove the facing blocks and the outer limestone blocks and reveal those gigantic chevrons. That's the original portal of the Great Pyramid.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so the pentagram identifies portal. This is why in the occult, in the medieval and Renaissance period, everywhere that you see them doing demon summonings and seances and all that, there's a pentagram, 5 candles on the floor. 5 was always the number for portal, for things coming in and out. 6 is not. 6 is a prison. 6 is the portal has been shut. 6 completely encapsulates matter and does not let it go anywhere.
Exactly. And you're absolutely correct. And that's what Saturn is attached to. And this is why they try to manifest using the number 666, which is basically 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons. And so they understand the physics. Now, we do have something in Washington, D.C. that is a pentagram. It's the Pentagon,
Yep.
the 5-sided building, which holds that power, which is a
well,
portal.
what is the pentagram? I mean, facially, we think it's just this big old, 9-story high building or whatever that's gigantic and it's the center of the military, but it is a portal because underneath the pentagram are underground monorails that go to all the underground bases.
Exactly.
So it's a huge portal.
Exactly. When you study, I did a presentation years ago on all the symbolism of the cosmos and how it's reflected. And it eventually took me to the geometry. And you see this geometry everywhere. I think you did it in one of your videos too, Jason, but you see the geometry everywhere in the public squares, in some of the government buildings, if you look carefully, and so it's everywhere, but people don't see it. And what they're actually doing is holding a certain frequency in place and basically marking their territory, going, this is ours. This is a power structure that belongs to us. The question is who's us, but it's tied into this Saturn worship, the Saturn worship cult. That's the best way to describe it. But you could see the symbolism here. It's very evident. And I do have some other slides here. Here, Jason, here's a perfect example of an alignment that took place on October 28th, 2024. I used New York. Here, you have that same symbolism being activated in the astrology, where planets are making certain points. And you could see how powerful you could see how powerful astrology is. It's a language of the geometry of energy or vibration.
Did any significant event happen on October 28th or the day before or the day after on 2024?
And I have to look into that. But every time this has happened, and it doesn't happen too often, but I've noticed a pattern. We seem to feel happier, or we're more content, or something seems to be flowing easier because triangles in astrology, which is a trine, they're usually happier alignments and favorable alignments. Okay. And so when you have two inverted like this, and we both know what these mean, one means the male energy, the other one is the female energy.
Right.
And so this is also the Merkaba, which is the energy field supposedly around the human body, and so we definitely feel things more in a favorable way. Let's put it that way. I'd have to backtrack and trace it and see if
it's a pretty deep symbolism, because
yeah,
with the upright triangle being the male, and the upside down triangle being the female, independently of their own, once they're merged together, you have two concepts that are bridged together that create the avatar, and the avatar is actually a prison for the soul.
Exactly. That's right. In this physical 3D reality, the forces of gravity and nature, or whatever it is, the plasma, whatever you want to call it, is forcing these molecules into that suit. This is why I came to the realization your birthday is much more than you could possibly imagine. It's the moment you literally take your first breath, that air, you're ingesting the first air into your lungs as a baby when you're born. You are marking a period in time. You are being influenced by that frequency or that moment or that first breath. That's how I view it. And so this is why, it's so important to understand some of these fundamental basics. You begin to see the patterns. You begin to see and understand the energy. And that's how I view everything. Energy. It's just energy, So this was very interesting. But then there's more, Jason. Here is one that happened on April 24th of 2014. There's the cube. Now, this one is much more challenging. These are squares in astrology, which are challenges. And then there's something very interesting that occurs here. Notice the cross. Now, this is, I believe, where the term a heavy cross to bear has come from, because this alignment is a challenge. So if I was to look up what was going on around this time and this cross that was, created at this time, I would say the country or people were going through a bit of a tough time, because this is heavy energy, heavy responsibility. Think of it as the Saturn energy, the square. It's putting pressure on you to produce. It's putting pressure on you to go a certain way, or maybe there's heavy regulation or responsibilities. And this is what the Saturn symbolism is often associated with. But we astrologers see this in the charts. When we see significant events like this, we go, oh, okay, we need to pay attention to this, because this is important, So again, it's just the study of language and of the light, of the language of the light. But this is where it gets interesting. And I don't know if you've seen this before. All around the world, in front of corporations and government buildings, we do have these black cubes. Were you aware of this, Jason?
I've seen somebody talk about it. I've heard somebody talk about it. I've never seen these pictures.
Yeah, I mean, you can look these up online. I just found this one slide to do this, but these black cubes, again, represent the Saturn worship cult. Okay, so they're basically marking their territory, or they're paying homage to Saturn to give them what they want, that sort of thing. And they do it in a ceremonial way. How about this company? I'm sure you've heard of this criminal outfit.
Yep, Black Rock. There it is.
That's the name of, the Saturn as well. This is associated with Saturn, the Black Rock.
It's represented by that little tiny black square that the tiny hats like to wear.
Exactly. And here, speaking of tiny hats, what happens when you go to college, right?
Yep.
You're being indoctrinated, and you're wearing that silly black hat, which is a square. It's basically saying, okay, I'm following your rules and regulations, and I'm going to learn something.
Man, it's such a perfect, it's just such a perfect deception, because you can't tell, you can't tell people who just spent 4, 6, 8, and 10 to 12 years of their life going through the higher education. You can't tell them, hey man, I'm really sorry, man, but truth be told is you paid for a brainwashing. You didn't pay for an education.
Pretty much. But wait till you see the next slide. I think you'll get a kick out of it. You ready? How about this one? I don't know if you've seen that, but I saw this and I said, let me throw this in there.
Man. There it is. Yeah, there it is.
Nothing's changed, except now we have slaves with education.
Man, it's such a mind deaf, man.
It is. It absolutely is. And you got to laugh at this stuff. Sometimes I just laugh, because of the irony and some of the stupidity behind it all. But it is what it is. But anyway, getting back to the Saturn stuff. So we saw Saturn, but now this is where it starts getting a little tricky here with the astrology, because on the 16th, we have the sun, which is the giver of life. It's the creative force symbolically. And it's going to be squaring, which is that difficult alignment, to Uranus, the planet of innovation, change, shock and awe, surprises. And so we see on the 16th here, we see Saturn, the sun squaring Uranus. But what makes this so interesting, Jason, is notice where that sun is located, right on the moon of the United States. So one of the things I would say is, from now until the 16th, I'm expecting a major announcement, a major event, something to shock people, surprise them in some way, or we go to conflict and war, with another nation, or major revelations come into being from now until the 16th. And what I've noticed, and many astrologers notice, is that even though these alignments occur specifically on a certain day and time, a lot of times they'll happen either around that time frame, a day or two before, a day or two after, because let's face it, we know that these calendars are off, and you did a great job of covering the calendars, that they were, changed again by Pope Gregory, and, we're not exactly on the exact timeline we're supposed to be on the calendrics. So it's always going to be a little off, on either side. But again,
if we technically go by the old world's calendars, 2026 hasn't even started yet. It won't start till the last 5 days of February. But
interesting.
It's the last 5 days of February was anciently called the Terminalia. It is the last 5 days of the year. And then March was the first month of the
okay.
It was March was New Year's.
That makes perfect sense. It wasn't April Fool's the original day that the church had the New Year, and then they changed it, and then they went back.
I don't know who had it. I don't know if anybody had it as a New Year's. They may have done it temporarily. I don't know, but
okay.
I know the reason why December is the 12th month, November is the 11th month, but that's not what they mean in Latin. October's 10, October's 8, but it's the 10th month, and September's 9, but it's the 7th month. So, it's the September's the 9th month, but these are Roman, these are Latin, and the names don't match up with their numerical order now unless we put the year back where it belongs.
That's
meaning
right.
January is the 11th month. And February is the 12th month, and the end of February, like the Romans had it, was the Terminalia. It was the very end of the year.
Well, and that would explain this month, Jason. I showed you some of the aspects. At the end of this month, it's pretty turbulent. The energy or whatever the hell is going to take place from now until the end of the month, it absolutely looks like it's a bit chaotic.
I'm ready, man.
Exactly.
I don't want to predict what the event is. I don't even want to really try, because when we're up against something this monolithic, if you remember back, there was nothing in the field December 10th, 2001. I mean September 10th, 2001. We were all living our lives, doing whatever. I was in a joint, but I was just having a normal day in prison, and everybody else having their normal days in society. And then September 11th, 8:45 in the morning comes around, and all of a sudden, people were glued to their televisions worldwide as we watched the entire September 11th deal unfold. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if these were events real or imagined. What matters is the whole world was glued to their televisions watching this and getting the news. So whether there were holograms that hit those buildings, or whether there were Predator drones, or whether there were real empty aircraft, none of that matters. All that matters is people really did die. Those buildings really are gone, and they were destroyed. And it just goes to show you, when really big events happen, they're almost never predicted.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I told you this story the last time, but I'll repeat it again about 9/11. I used to, when I lived in New York, I used to deliver right to the building across from the World Trade Centers. And I was there every week, and my spidey senses were going off, Jason, like you would not believe. Every time I go there, every single week, I would just keep looking up at the towers, because first of all, they're huge. They were huge, and I've been to the top of the buildings, but my spidey senses just kept telling me, and this was in 1990, yeah, 98 or something like that. 98. I was still in New York in 98. So they were going off like, the Spider-Man cartoon guy. His spidey senses are picking up on something's going to happen here. And all I kept thinking about, what was coming to mind was, what if there's a fire at the top of this building? Every time I would go there, I would think fire at the top of this building. That's what kept coming to me. And I couldn't make any sense of it because I just thought, yeah, you're just using it's just your imagination. You're just fantasizing, whatever. When those towers came down, or those planes or non-planes hit, I said, it just was a massive confirmation. I said, Joe, you were tuning into something in the field that was coming, but you just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, it was a hell of a day. I mean, like I said, I was in prison, and it was still heavy. The whole event was heavy. The whole field felt heavy.
Yeah.
It's one of the few events, like the space shuttle in 1986. I remember it clear as a day, and I was just a little kid in 5th grade watching television, trying to figure out why all the teachers were crying. So I thought those extra explosions were just booster rockets that came off. The teachers weren't telling us what really happened. So, and I was sitting toward the back of the class watching it anyway, because I was an F up when I was in school. But yeah, man, everybody listening to my voice right now that was alive in 2001 in September, if you're over 5, 6, 7 years old, at the time, you remember exactly what you were doing that day when that event happened. This is a bridging event where the entire human family was experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time.
But notice what it did, Jason. It sent ripples throughout not just this planet and this world, but interdimensionally. It was an event so powerful that, the collective were basically sending out a sorrow, sadness, fear, into the field.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it literally supposedly affected the Schumann resonance, which is the pulse of the planet, 7.83. It skyrocketed with, we literally affected the gravitational field supposedly of the earth, and so it was that powerful. And whoever, whoever's running this planet kind of knows this stuff. And this is why they've done these so-called false flags and these operations to sort of shock the system in a way. It's like shocking a pool, when you have to put the white powder stuff there. I forgot what it's called, the diametric earth into the thing. You shock the pool. It's the same thing here. And I think we're in for some major shocks this year because that's what I'm seeing in the astrology.
I can see it. I can see it. It's I would be interested to know if, and this is something I'll look at later, whatever events unfold this year, I will instantly compare them with September 11th, 2001, because I would see an event unfold. I'm going to look too, and it would be 24.48 years distance between them, because, it would have to be 2025. Something in 2025 could be connected to the World Trade Center event. We had a lot of events in 2025. 2025 is hard to process all the stuff that went on. Nothing on the caliber of the World Trade Towers, unless you lived in Gaza. That's different. If you live in Gaza, your world fell apart. But,
right.
And in a few other places, in the purge they did in Iran.
Yeah, but makes perfect sense.
There's all kinds of ways to look at it, but the best discoveries we ever make are ex post facto. We see the patterning is so perfect only once an event has happened.
No, I agree. Well, the thing about this presentation is, you have all the charts now. You have all the dates. And, if events do occur, please let me know. I mean, we'll obviously know about it, but you have the dates here that I'm showing you where there's a significant movement taking place this year. I highlighted a lot of the most significant timelines. So, but here's the major disruption. And I call this one a disruption because everything about it is disruptive, Jason. This eclipse.
Fire horse.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But, anything to do with Uranus or Aquarius is about shocking the system. And on the 17th, we have that major energy coming in. It's like a building of energy. It keeps building. Okay. So for many who don't know astrology or understand some of the physics, we have this giant red ball here, orange ball here, projecting light. And when we have a solar eclipse, the moon is literally blocking out the sun. So it's like a reset. This is why in astrology, a solar eclipse is a significant event. It's a start. It's a new beginning, and it's in effect. The most powerful time is the 3rd and the 6th month after the eclipse, and then it could last a whole year. And depending on where it lands on the Earth, that's the area that gets triggered. And so we've had in the last few years, Jason, major events over Texas. This is your neck of the woods, Arizona, and different parts of the country. So these are areas that I've noticed the correlation between some of these weather patterns that have occurred. You see, so it's given us an indication. It's like pointing a finger in that direction, going, watch that area because it's going to be active. You see, and so this is what astrology does. It shows us, it gives us a guide, a point, and that's what a solar eclipse is. And this one is also called, Jason, you'll appreciate this, the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. So not only do we have the horse that's fiery, now we have an angular solar eclipse that is the Ring of Fire.
Because it's not just the fire horse, it's also the Chinese New Year is February 17th.
Exactly. So everything is indicating or pointing to major events or transformation or awareness or bringing in something of great change. That's how I would look at this. And we'll just have to see how it unfolds, but it's happening to us personally on the inside. Like we're becoming more aware of things. You know, there's an awakening process that's taking place here. And so Uranus and Aquarius, one and the same, is ruled by this planet over here, another gassy giant that it's elliptical, is vertical rather than horizontal like everything else. So this is why we have this association with Uranus and Aquarius being quirky and unusual and out of the ordinary. And here's just a little bit of the overview of what it means. It's original, independent, progressive. You get the gist of it. But here's the thing that really is amazing to me. The dominant word for Aquarius is I know. Many Aquarians or people with a lot of Aquarius in their charts are highly intelligent. They're like scientists and physicists, and they just know things. You know, it comes natural to them to understand the physics or the geometry of something. And so this is what this symbol represents. You know, people could study it online or whatever. It's very basic, very general. But we have all these signs in our charts, Jason. It's not like we're missing anything. You know, our whole chart has these symbols in them. But here's a perfect example of the Aquarius energy. You know, when you see those people with the weird hair or the pink hair, the purple hair, or even the trans community or people that are, you know, like to dress weird and they don't think they're one gender or another, they fall under this category of being different, which is the Aquarius energy. And we see the symbolism of space as the mythology associated with Uranus, the god of the sky. We see lightning as a perfect example of Aquarius or Uranus. And then we see the symbolism of the water bearer. And what does a bartender do? Dispensing liquids and fluids, just like the Aquarius energy. Many bartenders are Aquarius in their charts, or have Aquarius in their charts that are very strong and prominent. And so you could see that, through pictures, you could see the symbolism of the sign, and here's just the basic overview of what the Aquarius energy represents and what this moon is going to be doing. It's change and transformation, innovation, progression, freedom, individuality, rebellion, revolution, originality, uniqueness, intuition, insight, awakening, enlightenment, disruption, and chaos. So not to be negative here, but everything is pointing in that direction, Jason.
Shoot, and say if the NGOs, if the non-governmental organizations like Soros, he's just a puppet too. But
yes.
If all the NGOs just turned off the debit cards to all the migrants that have been put in all the countries all over the world, this whole fire horse is going to take off overnight.
Exactly. And it's very possible, but look at this is the chart for that exact time. We see it at 28 degrees of Aquarius at 49 minutes past the hour. And the major alignment that it's making, it's to its ruler. The ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. It's one and the same. And it's at 27 degrees of Taurus. Now, Taurus does rule money, food, values, and so when we see an astrology alignment like this, we're going, oh boy, are we going to be in for the next 3 to 6 months with many, many surprises. And many of them, I believe, are going to be in the financial sector, Jason, because of this Taurus symbolism here. and it's going to be technological in nature, which is the Aquarius energy, and the values and our resources. But one of the things I have, and I do see coming, and people need to pay attention to, is the food. Because of the weather changes or the weather manipulation or the control over the food sources, I think we're going to have some issues with food coming soon too. Growing crops, GMO food, maybe expensive food. I think things are going to change in that area as well. What do you see that too, Jason, as a possibility?
Well, I do see with not till 2028, and I haven't released that video yet, but I've told my community, because we're still halfway through the second seal period. We're still halfway through the fiery horse in the Greek. But the third horse is Apollo Nemesius. And this is when we get to controlled economy that doles out. It's going to be. It's hard to talk about it because we haven't got there yet. But the programming attached to the Judeo-Christian symbolism is so strong. People have an inability to really process what that scales and what the Gaia famine comes in and does, because it's not talking about a dearth of food. It is talking about a spiritual famine during a time when things have become too abundant. Now, without working, people have access to money, have access to pleasures, have access to sustenance, things like food and sustenance, amenities, and it's going to completely create a spiritual famine. But I've already talked about it a little bit, but the original Greek of those seals does not mean anything the Judeo-Christians have attached to the. It's a playbook for the elite, and it's something they've probably done over and over and over and over and over. And this is probably the umpteenth iteration of the same playbook. But I see an interruption of food and all that only to create a much better system that people are going to like. I see a system being put in place where people are actually going to be happy about staying home.
Yeah, I do see that as well too. But food, something to do with food is going to change dramatically. And that's what I'm seeing. I know they've been playing with the food, Bill Gates and his, fake food and all that. So somewhere down the line, something to do with food is absolutely.
There is a lot of legislation passed in different states like Texas. Yeah, they've made some of these illegal meats absolutely prosecutable now. If you're a restaurant caught. So this is coming out. There are different states because the federal government may not get involved, but under the 10th Amendment, the State Police Powers Act, the individual states have the ability to prosecute all this stuff, and some of them, like Texas, are doing it. They're not going to allow a lot of this fake food to be continually sold through the into the markets in Texas. Yeah,
I could see that. Absolutely, good point. Here it is in the United States' chart again, Jason. What can I say? When I highlighted this in red here, okay? So here's the United States' moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and there's the solar eclipse at 28 degrees right on that moon. The moon is the foundation, the home, the feelings, the emotional side of the country. And again, it's in that third house of communication. At this time, look at all these planets in this third house of communication and ideas. This is people becoming more vocal. This is people getting angry. This is people, wanting to break pattern. This is just disruptive energy coming in, and information and technology. Everything is like almost like piling in at a rapid pace. Given this moon, it's like it's setting the trade. It's like the gun has gone off at the race. Hey, I want to paint a picture for which we have a precedent, because a lot of us alive today have never seen the social changes that could be happening this year. And what I mean is the French Revolution caught people flat-footed. The common man
didn't really know what was being conspired higher up. So when the French Revolution came out and all these people were oppressed, they're getting sick and tired of everything that's going on. And next thing they know, they wake up, there's a revolution. People high up are all involved. And then people are being paraded out to city squares in France, and guillotines are being set up, and almost overnight people are like, what the hell's going on? And they just changed their government, changed their laws, and you saw leaders getting beheaded. And then they turn around, the main guy, Robespierre, who wired it all up, they grabbed his ass and they cut his head off too. But yeah, the French Revolution, what I'm saying is things can change, even though they haven't changed in the United States like that drastically overnight. All it takes is a catalyst. Yeah. And you could wake up on a normal day, and then by 2:00 in the afternoon, the nation is burning and all kinds of things are going on. It's just chaos. It can happen so fast.
And that's the energy that I'm seeing here, Jason. Uranus energy is not docile. It's not passive. And when it's triggered like this, with the ruler Uranus over here being active, so active on the United States, I would say there's going to be another event. And I've been able to predict some of these events with amazing accuracy in the last, let's say, year or so, where I said, look to this area, there's going to be this. So here I'm saying there's either going to be an internet outage, things having to do with electricity, power outages. I mean, we did see those storms that just came across the southeast. I don't know. Did you get affected by those storms? Did you have a lot of ice in your area, Jason?
Yeah, for about 5 days, we had every night it was down in the teens, and we're not used to that in Texas. Not at all.
Right. But Aquarius has to do with electricity. It has to do with knowledge. It has to do with the technological side of it. So in the coming months, and again, I have to say months, sometimes it doesn't happen on the exact date of the eclipse, but this is in effect. It's like opening the doorway to this area. In the next 3 to 6 months, this is absolutely activated in the United States' chart, being April, one of the most significant times. And I'll get to that when we get to the astrology of April, because April is the impulsive Aries energy. That's what I'm getting at. So this is setting the stage for something coming that's much bigger in April, in my opinion. Now, I want to also point out to something else here that you were talking about in other videos. Uranus is in the 6th house, and the 6th house in astrology represents health. It represents diseases. It represents day-to-day. With Uranus here, the day-to-day activities in our personal lives may start to change. This, because it affects health. Did you hear about that story in Las Vegas where they found that guy in the house with all of those biotech weapons or diseases in those bottles? Did you hear about that, Jason?
Yeah, no, that missed me. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, the police went in there, and I think the FBI as well, and you could look it up. Las Vegas raids house with bioweapons. This guy had all of these jars and containers, glass containers with all different diseases in them. And I don't know how they caught him, but this had some sort of, and again, you don't know what to believe anymore, because a lot of it's fabricated bullshit. But this is what they were reporting, that they found all these bioweapons.
That would be well, what I don't like about that story already, and I just heard about it from you just now. What I don't like about that story is there hasn't been any coverage as to where they came from. That's a hell of a lead. That's a hell of a security breach for somebody to walk out with all that.
Exactly. But, they've arrested also many Chinese students in the universities carrying in bioweapons or, bacteria or stuff that they weren't supposed to bring in.
Listen, man, I've been to Vegas several times now. I'm gonna tell you now, man, it's there. You can't go from casino to casino because, different casinos have different activities, different shows, different restaurants, different sports books. So when I go from casino to casino, if they're within walking distance, I'll walk. You can't walk down the streets of Vegas and the Strip or anywhere in Vegas without coming across throngs of Chinese. It's like number one Chinese tourist spot is Las Vegas.
I agree. I totally agree. But it's these kind of stories that, when I look at the astrology and I go, oh, the 6th house is being active here and it's going to continue to be active in years to come. So, that's something else that's in the field of possibilities. Another, planned event affecting people's health that is in the field as well. unfortunately. Again, folks, if you're listening, these are all possibilities. I'm not saying they're going to happen, but they're possibilities given this very unsettling energy that's coming in right now, that's opening up this doorway in February. Okay. But let's continue. February 26th through March the 20th, we have Mercury that's in Pisces, and Mercury does not do well in Pisces. It's fantasy prone, it's illusion, it's confusing, especially in a retrograde mindset. Okay. So anyone that's a Gemini or Virgo, needs to pay attention to what they're doing, because they could have, simple mishaps, or electronics don't work right. And it's a confusing time. Now, I'm including this because we're going to have 3, obviously, major retrogrades throughout the year. And every one of these retrogrades, with the dates I've given, look for some sort of activity or major announcement or an event or something from the past that resurfaces. That's why, when these retrograde period times are important, And since Mercury is also associated with commerce, it's also associated with communications of all kinds. We could have issues related to communications, internet, technology, phone service, all of that stuff is in the mix. But this first one on the 26th, and here's an overview of what it really means. Miscommunication, difficulty expressing ourselves, emotional and sensitive criticism, traffic delays, revisiting old traumas, frustration and struggles, mental health and mental clarity issues for sure, rekindling toxic relationships. That's a possibility as well. So this is what it symbolically represents to astrologers, and it does affect us. Here it is in the United States' chart, Jason. Now, again, we had the solar eclipse activating the moon. Now we have Mars sitting on that moon, and there's the Mercury retrograde, again in that 3rd house of communication. And now we see Saturn has also left the 3rd house, going into the 4th house of home, feeling, and foundation. So what I'm seeing is, by the end of this month, there seems to be some sort of chaos that's erupting here, either with government or military, or with police and ICE.
Yeah,
and
it could be. Yeah, there's a lot of protests, and some of them be getting out of control on the ICE deal. A lot of community organization against ICE, and I mean that's going to get handled. That's going to get handled, because ICE is a finger of government. It's not like ICE is some organization like a Bill Gates NGO out there doing things. So they're actually organizing. It's anarchy. It's 100%. Whether you agree with whatever ICE is doing or not, if you publicly organize against them and it ends up being violent, you're not going to win that.
Exactly. Yeah. But do you see from an astrologer's perspective, when we look at this stuff, how chaotic it looks to us? And I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm being very realistic. Mars on the moon is very disruptive emotionally. We have the confusing Pisces energy, and then Mercury decides to go backwards, add more confusion into the mix. And then we have all this other stuff going on here with Saturn moving into the 4th house, which is the land, the foundation, the cities. It's about emotions, and it's making an alignment to Uranus there. Let me go back.
So this is the day before. Oh no, this is February 27th.
But the wheels have been set in motion since the 16th, Jason.
Okay.
When that first sun squares Uranus, which in astrology can indicate a disruption of some kind, possibly
the 26th or the 16th.
The 16th. The 16th, when I said the sun squares Uranus.
Remember that's chart? 7 days from now. That's 1 week from now.
Right, exactly. Now the sun also represents leadership. So it could have something to do with a leader around the world that maybe gets assassinated, or is in the public spotlight, or is, indicated in the files that were just released. It could be major shock and surprise, and we're seeing a lot of that now. So what I'm suggesting here is that it's all about information, because it's the 3rd house of communication that's being lit up in the United States. You see? And so with all of this energy down here, it's all about communication. It's about ideas. It's about premonitions. It's about, how we see things and how we interact on that level.
So let me ask you this. Epstein files are not new. We've had access to a bunch of drops and
Mhm.
redacted versions, and they've slowly groomed the public, letting people who know what's going on involved. So I mean, we now know that it's not just Epstein, it is a massive control network. They've been
Mhm.
controlling Hollywood, they've been controlling US government officials, they're doing all so no more no more drops in the Epstein files are going to have made. We're already been desensitized from it, which is the purpose
Mhm.
of the soft disclosure. So what I see happening that would shock people and maybe be more reflective of what you're seeing in this astrology is not releasing more files. They're not going to shock anybody, but actual arrests. That would shock people because we've been conditioned to believe now they're not going to arrest anybody.
Yeah.
No one's been arrested in all these disclosures, and there's still people arguing back and forth if anything was even happening on Epstein Island. And the people that argue this back and forth are clearly ignoring all the women that have come forth and disappeared because of what they said about what was going on that island. So
Yeah.
I'm yeah, I would say if we're looking for shock and awe type stuff, it would be that some government agency, maybe international Interpol, somebody actually starts arresting people instead of just talking about it on social media.
Well, would be nice to see, but unfortunately, what I see is if they do have arrests, they'll be low level people. They'll never
Yeah,
arrest sort of the big
I can definitely
criminals.
see that too. I
You
can
know?
definitely see that too.
For instance, Jason, there was heavy speculation on some of those files that Trump was involved in them somehow. They were very explicit. I don't want to get into it, but that was very shocking to many of the Trump supporters. You know, and so it's stuff like that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. And I said that to people. I said, and they lost their marbles. On Facebook. Oh, you know what you're talking about. You're a leftist. You're this. You're that. And I'm like, come on, guys. I'm just putting this out here, and saying like, look, this is a possibility. I'm not saying it's real. It's not, but it could be.
What's crazy about it is that the Epstein files are mostly about emails after 2008.
Right.
2008 is when he got those child predator charges put on him.
That's right. Exactly. And what's even more, something to think about is he was still in contact with supposedly Trump and Mar-a-Lago in 2012. A lot of those files were saying, Epstein was talking about contacting Trump and going to Mar-a-Lago in 2012. He got thrown out of that thing in 2003 or something like that. So how is he
Yeah.
still able to get to Mar-a-Lago and Trump? I mean, this is all stuff that we're all scratching our heads going, what the hell is going on, But anyway, I just think, like I said, I call it political theater because that's what's actually
It's all
happening.
theater. Yeah, it's all
You know,
it's all theater. Believe me,
exactly.
the Epstein stuff going on right now, as I've said in the past, it's we're not going to find out till 6 months in the future what was really going on during this period while they kept us busy with the Epstein files.
Right. And there's heavy speculation, there's pictures circulating online, and again, we don't know if they're real or not, of Epstein walking around in Tel Aviv with two huge bodyguards.
Yeah, I've seen that picture.
I'm like, again, friends, I don't know if it's real or not. You make what you want of it. It doesn't matter. But anyway, here we have on the 27th, Jason, we have a very volatile and extremely volatile. Every time this Mars squares Uranus, it's almost a guarantee of some major event taking place. So, from the 16th of February to the end of this month, into the beginning of March, we have this extremely volatile energy coming in. And it could be just one surprise after another, or an event after another, or disclosure, or major arrests, or maybe even volatile weather. I can't discount that either, because we saw it there in the Southeast. So we're looking at major disruption or awareness coming in just in this month alone, Jason. And every astrologer knows this. And here it is in the United States, Mars. If you saw the chart yet, I'm looking at my phone and the chart at the same time. Mars conjuncts again the United States exactly at 27 degrees, making that square, which is a challenge to Uranus, full of surprises, major changes to our daily routine. At the same time, Jupiter is on the top of the sun of the United States, and it's also making a tough alignment to Saturn. So either this is a war or a conflict, or something to do with government is under attack, like we saw in Los Angeles and Portland, and some of the major cities, which I have predicted will continue to escalate. There's no way these blue cities and states are going to be docile and passive in the coming months. No way in hell. So we may see more disruption in these cities. That's the thing that makes the most sense here when I look at this astrology, Jason. Major disruption. At the same time, the continuing awakening of society, especially when we have Saturn and Neptune going into the 4th house, which has to do with the land, and the cities. So I'm looking at major disruption here. Okay. Then we go into March, we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which is about health and daily routine and service to others and worrying. This is all under the umbrella of Virgo. And for those that don't understand, a lunar eclipse is when the earth is in the way of the sun. So it's essentially blocking off the energy to the moon in a sense. And the moon represents the past, the emotions. And usually lunar eclipses, Jason, do represent endings or completions in some way. Okay. And again, they're in effect 3 to 6 months. They're much more powerful than a regular new moon and a full moon. And here we go back to the charts. What do we see? Again, the 3rd house is being super activated here. You see? So what is this suggesting? Even though the moon is in the 9th house, this could be legal issues. This could have something to do with illegals that came into the country, Jason. Maybe we round them all up, or like you said, their EBT cards get cut off and they start fucking, pardon my French, they start acting up, That is a possibility.
Yeah, because that's if that was to happen, there's going to be all kinds of societal chaos for a while. There's going to be violence. They're going to be violent, and then locals are going to be trying to help law enforcement do their job, and people are going to be getting in the way. They're going to be getting hurt, but then the local patriots of the United States are going to be super happy because the government's taking care of a problem. But it becomes problem, reaction, solution all over again. And now the government can legislate, and the judiciary can legislate, which they're not allowed to do, but they do it anyway through rulings. And
exactly.
They can create a whole new society real quick with new laws that American citizens would love to go ahead and vote in, even though they're unconstitutional, and only because it would stop the same thing from ever happening again. There's all kinds of ways they can package this.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm just showing you just in these next three or 4 weeks, how chaotic this energy is, and it's absolutely directed towards the United States here. And I just noticed something else here. We also have what's considered a T-square to the United States is Uranus, 8 degrees, 12 degrees. That's very close. And so I'm seeing a major disruption occurring in the next 3 to 4 weeks having to do with our daily routine. How we do things could have something to do with flight. Remember after 9/11, there were no planes that were flying, and I got an interesting story. I flew 2 days after 9/11. I believe it was 9/13. There was nobody at any airport. There were maybe 6 people on the plane. It was the most eerie, weirdest feeling I'd ever had, Jason. This was 9/13 of 2001. It was the strangest thing, I had to take this trip. But this is the kind of energy I'm talking about that is in effect here that could be very unsettling or, shocking us and surprising us, whether it's massive weather or there's a shutdown. After 9/11, they shut down the airports, for a day or two. So it could be that kind of disruptive energy. Could be something to do with the communication systems that go down. Could be a major legislation, like you said, comes through that really surprises everyone, and it has to do with maybe with health or health benefits or anything directed towards our daily well-being, because Virgo is associated with health, you see. So no matter how you slice it, these next 3 or 4 weeks is high volatile energy. That's what I'm getting at here. Okay. Now, to add more, Jupiter begins its direct motion on the 11th. Now we begin to see things really start to amp up in the United States, because the United States was formed under the Cancer symbol. And Jupiter is the large body that sort of protects us, in a sense. And so we'll see it going direct. Here it is in stationary position before it goes direct on March 11th. And so here it is moving forward again, and it will enter the 8th house of joint finances and transformation. But I'm expecting, again, March to be not as volatile as February, but that's to say, not to say that it's not going to be a bit sketchy, because we look down here and now we have Neptune and Saturn and Venus now has entered Aries. This, again, to me, symbolically represents lots of disruption with either cities or states against government, because Saturn represents governments. And Neptune, again, that disruptive energy in Aries represents, people losing their sense of reality or losing their marbles. And when we see the alignments taking place here, Jason, we have 1 degree to Venus, 3 degrees exactly to Venus, 6 degrees exactly off by 1 degree to Jupiter. This is, again, chaotic energy. And again, something is taking place maybe in three cities simultaneously. 3 protests, 3 disruptions, chaos, people just getting angry and frustrated for no apparent reason, because these are square alignments and they're tough. They're adjustment periods. And most people just react to them, and so this is the benefit of astrology. When you understand these patterns are starting to evolve, you could deal with them better, But whatever it is, March still seems to be a little bit turbulent, and it has to do with emotions and outrage and anger and frustration, and people are not thinking straight. Okay. Then we get into March the 20th through April the 19th. I mean, this picture says, speaks volumes here. We're going into that ram, the symbol of fighting and argument and military and police and, aggression and impulsiveness. This is what Aries represents, but it also represents the self-awareness, pioneering spirit, initiative, depending on the individual and how they use that energy. Here's just some of the qualities associated with Aries, very general, very basic. Aries is very determined. It's passionate. It's bold. It's confident. It's a born leader. It's assertive. It's a risk taker. And on the negative sides, it could be impulsive, pessimistic, intolerant, egotistical, a procrastinator. So anyway, but you see what's building here, Jason. March the 20th, we have all these planets aligning in Aries. Now, this is going from the watery realms of Pisces now into the more aggressive energy of Aries. And so I'm expecting, March now from the 20th through April, all the way through April, to be a time where there's going to be more military or police on the streets, or people are just becoming more aggressive, looking for fights for no apparent reason. Because remember, the wheels have been set in motion this month, starting with that solar eclipse. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's like we're feeding the fire more, we're putting more fuel on the fire. That's what I'm seeing here.
So I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but when I was doing all the calendrics for the April 8th eclipse, and I haven't compared April 8th to the 17th yet, or the 27th, I need to do that. But when I was doing all those videos that was showing the Purge franchise, release dates were perfectly synchronized with countdowns of 1776 to days that Pfizer actually made major announcements about their vax, and that the Pfizer vaccine was released in perfect proportion mathematically to those movies and the April 8th. You remember those old videos I did that linked all that? Okay, absolutely. Well, I haven't taken that further to see how it connects to this year. I need to. I just been bogged down. But in the calendrics, I clearly saw and told my community, I don't know what the connection is with Pfizer, the company, but there's something that vax has to do with whatever happens during an eclipse. There is a connection between eclipses, the purge, and that vax. They are all mathematically connected together. And I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because that information is still there. The connection still exists. We're just waiting. We're just waiting to see where that information takes us.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, eclipses do highlight many, many different areas depending on what planets are associated with them. Like, for instance, what you just described with those companies, they would probably fall under the umbrella of Pluto, doing things in secret, trying to transform the entire society, trying to kill them off, whatever it is. They're doing sneaky shit, and that falls under the umbrella of Pluto right there. So, I would take a look at where Pluto was during that eclipse and see the significance of it. But you could see here, after the 20th, we are seeing an escalation of energy going up. If you just look at the symbolism of the fiery Aries, the passive fish of Pisces are more, beating themselves up or feeling compassion for others or trying to help others. They're very good natured. But the Aries energy is a different energy. It's about action, and so we're starting to see this build up here is what I'm getting at. And here we see it in the United States' chart. These planets are starting to move into the fourth house once again, having to do with land, cities, states, and the energy is absolutely building here, Jason. Okay. Wow. And so what I'm seeing is either major protests, major marches, or police on the streets, or military. And again, it may not, I want to say it's not going to be our country, but I'm looking at the chart for our country, and so it is absolutely going to affect our country somehow, some way. We just don't know how. Maybe it'll be peaceful, but that's wishful thinking because Aries energy isn't anything but peaceful, you see? And so again, not trying to be negative, folks, I'm just showing you what I see and many other astrologers see, that is a bit disruptive. That's the best way I could put it, a bit disruptive here, And wow. It's something very interesting that's happening between the 15th and the 19th is we have 7 of these bodies in the sign of Aries right there, including the transiting moon right there.
Which 2 are excluded?
What's that?
Which 2 are excluded?
Venus right there. Jupiter is excluded,
Okay.
But we do have Mars there. Mars in Aries is very aggressive because it's now in the natural setting. Mars naturally rules Aries, but we have the sun going through Aries. We have Chiron, which is the largest asteroid, not really a planet, but it's also in Aries. We have Saturn here in Aries. Mars is now in Aries, which is really, a powder keg waiting to blow up. Uranus, the transiting moon, and now Mercury has entered Aries. So we have all these bodies in Aries right around the 15th through the 19th. So talk about it's almost like watching a fireworks go off, when you light the fuse and you're waiting for it to go off. That's what I'm seeing here, in these next few months. Now, on the positive side, this time frame is very interesting because Aries energy is about the self. So maybe we become more aware of who we are. Those of us that are in tune become more empowered to say, you know what, I'm going to change my life in some way. And I don't care what the hell the government does or what these other people are doing. I'm going to do this, and there is that possibility as well. I'm not saying it's all bad news here. I'm just saying there's a great awakening that's occurring. It starts in February and it really amplifies in April. Let's put it that way. It seems to be at a very high point in April with these alignments occurring here. In the United States' chart, look at this. We went from the 3rd house of communication now to the 4th house of emotion and foundation and feelings. This is just passionate, disruptive, emotional energy. And it could be a major event that has occurred that is causing a lot of sadness. And
Lee, hold on. That's April 15th, not July 14th. Okay. Right. So you're still on the April 15th deal.
Right. But Jason, let me give you an example. When JF Kennedy got assassinated, what happened to the country? You see what I'm saying?
Well, was it reflected in the astrology?
Oh, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. I didn't actually look at that. But what happened to the country when he got shot? The entire country, like 9/11.
There's no other day in our history like that, but 9/11.
Right. Right. Exactly.
9/11. JFK was probably more shocking than the 9/11 event.
Exactly. And by the way, I believe he was the last real president. Everyone after that, had to follow the rules or else. You know what I'm talking about. So, but this is the kind of stuff I'm seeing building up here in the United States. like another major event or something significant where there's a lot of emotion or anger or frustration or feelings or something that is getting our attention. And I hope to God it's not another assassination of somebody very well known. Remember, I made the prediction on the 14th, Jason, April 14th. What did I say? Somebody very well known is going to be assassinated, or killed or dies or whatever, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And maybe it'll come to me. I don't know.
It would have to be somebody super famous, because even the Charlie Kirk assassination wasn't that much of a big deal, because not a lot of people knew who he was until he was killed.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm seeing here, and I'm just putting it out as a possibility, and I don't want to see it happen, but that's what it's indicating to me, But let's move forward. Uranus in April on the 25th goes back into Gemini, and it goes all the way to 2033. Now, this is very powerful because obviously Uranus is the sky god. I'm not going to read all this, but it represents the primordial deity representing the sky. He's also considered the progenitor of the Titans, the Cyclopses. Uranus was born from Gaia, the personification of the earth, and together they formed the foundation of the cosmos. So this is why Uranus and Aquarius is associated with the sky and space and extraterrestrials and anything weird. Okay. So, but here's just an overview. One of the slides I used, it's a revolution of ideas, communication, technology, community, commerce, and transportation. So if you're an early Gemini, May through May the 30th, this will affect you greatly, because it's going back into that sign. But here we have it in the United States' chart that, Uranus goes back into Gemini in the 6th house of health and service and daily routine. So it's almost like, at the end of April, we're seeing things differently, or there's a new financial system that's been implemented using technology, and it's changing the way we behave, or changing the way we exchange value for each other, Jason. That's a possibility here, is what I'm seeing. The financial component is absolutely big here. But here's what we were talking about earlier. You said, remember the Revolutionary War. The last 3 times Uranus went back to the same original position in the United States' chart. Here are the dates, the years, and this is what happened. Do you see the pattern here, Jason? American Revolution, Civil War, World War II, and now from this time frame all the way to 2033.
Is this an 84-year pattern?
Yes, it is. Yes,
okay.
It is, Jason. So this is roughly an 84-year pattern.
That's interesting, because I can show the same thing in calendrical isometrics using the last year Phoenix was seen, 1902. Yeah. Because going forward and backward, 1902, the Civil War years line up perfectly with World War II, and the 1774 and 1782 line up perfectly with what you taught 2020. Here it is, 2025, 2026. Yeah. Maybe part of 2027. But it's using 1902 as a reference, the epicenter, and counting equidistantly forward and backward from 1902, this exact pattern unfolds.
Exactly. So again, as I've come to realize, it really does not matter which system you use, it will still reveal the information. It really, like you've said also that it's the person, the individual, and how they perceive it and what they want to use.
The number of 84 also is the mystical interpretation for the numbers would be closure.
Right.
It is 12 times 7. So that's a pretty interesting number, man.
Right, absolutely. But we can't avoid this, this pattern that's happened before 3 times to the United States, So I actually have a chart here. It's going to be July 27, 2027, where it's exactly at the same position, Jason.
Wow.
Okay. Now I've got something else I want to share with you. This is the day or the end of July where I see Donald Trump stepping down as president. This was shown to me in a vision. And it was very clear. I saw the month of July and I saw 2027. I was just wandering around here.
I'm going to tell you now, he doesn't look healthy at all.
Right.
So you're talking about a year and a half in the future. That's a long time for somebody who's already closing on mid-70s.
Yeah. I would agree. And I have talked about him when they had those pictures of him in the socks and the blood flow and all that other stuff. And I did go over his chart. He does have issues going on with his blood that he's going to need to take care of. But I do see him, and it could happen before 2027. But, I do see him not completing, as I predicted, Biden would not finish his term. And he technically wasn't even there. But
I was about to say, was that the first, second, third, fourth,
Yeah,
or fifth Biden?
exactly. But I don't see Trump finishing his term. I see in July him basically leaving, and they're going to say it's because of health issues. He'll just retire and turn it over to Vance. So that's what I see happening. But anyway, going back to the Mercury retrogrades, we see that June is the next one coming in, very important. But then we go into June at the end. Now we see Jupiter going into Leo, the sign of, courageous bravery and creativity. And this is what basically Jupiter in Leo represents. You could see creativity. It's dramatic, expressive, generous, loving, warm. And this is where I think a lot of the positive energy comes in, Jason. So wherever the first couple of months is coming in, or a new system coming in, or a new monetary system, or a new way of doing things, now July going through August, things seem to be improving or seem to be happier or more fulfilling. And it could be where we see gold prices continuing to go up as well. Zeus is often associated with Jupiter. Jupiter and Zeus are one and the same, but is often associated with this alignment. This is the mythical god, the supreme god, as we all know. I'm not going to read this, but, a lot of people already know this. But here it is. It's going to be in the 8th house of finance. So I see, again, the themes generally being finance here. Jupiter in the 8th house of the United States. But on August the 3rd, Jupiter makes an exact conjunction on the north node of the moon, which usually signifies something very relevant and very important. And since it's the sign of royalty, this could be something to do with the royal family or a leader. And it could be somebody that's instilled, or a new leader is put in place, or there could be a major assassination. It could be something that happens in a country that's ruled by Leo. Okay, and I do believe Italy is ruled by Leo. There could be an eruption of a volcano there. One of the things I did see is Mount Etna erupting, major eruption in 2027. And so I think there's going to be quite a few volcanic activities. But what I'm seeing in the United States is something to do with the financial system, because it is the 8th house of death and rebirth. It's the house of shared resources. So I'm just putting in the time frames. Let me see. Here is the second half of what I see here, July. Now, these are all positive aspects, Jason, except for this one, all right, in the middle here. And I'll cover these real quickly. You see the dates, folks, July 15th, 18th, 20th. For the most part, this looks like very positive energy in July, okay? And here is the first one, Uranus and Neptune. When these two get together, there's usually a major change in society, communication, ideas. Here's the other one, Uranus and Pluto trining each other. This is pretty significant. So we can look for some major announcements or some new systems being put in place that can be beneficial. Let's put it that way, Jason. All right. I'm just going to run through these. Jupiter trine Neptune could be over optimism that occurs on July the 20th because of these two alignments. And then we see this Jupiter opposing Pluto, which is very powerful. Every time this happens, there's a significant event that takes place. But because of these other alignments, Jason, to these other planets, it almost seems like this has to happen this way. It has to go this way in order to implement the new plan or the new ideas or the new infrastructure or whatever it is that they're going to be injecting into the system. Okay? So this is very powerful. This is again on July the 20th. It could affect the stock markets and money systems as a whole. Like, for instance, we say goodbye to the dollar completely, and we're on this new system backed by gold. That's the real possibility that I see here, Jason. Pluto, often associated with Scorpio. Real quickly, it's associated with Hades. Hades in Greek, Pluto in the Romans. Often this is associated with the god of the underworld. The things that are hidden, the hidden realm, the destructive stuff, the darkness, the death is often associated with Pluto. And the major keywords: transformation, rebirth, power and control, psychological depth, intense emotion, death and rebirth, destruction and regeneration, empowerment and empowerment. Okay, so you could see that the symbolism. Now, the thing is that Pluto has entered Aquarius, the sign of humanity. It's again that same revolutionary energy, Jason. And so I just jotted down some keywords here: AI, robots, new technology, revolution, extraterrestrials, nuclear events, radiation, unusual deaths, disclosure, space travel, dehumanization, which you were talking about earlier, people becoming more like robots.
Right. Hey, just a second. I'm gonna stop you for just a second. I'm gonna stop you for just a second. You can continue on because I can catch up, but I got security monitors. I have a vehicle in my driveway. I need to go investigate. I'll be right back. I'm the only one here.
Okay. Do you want me to continue with the presentation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, guys, that this has a lot to do with revolution. This has a lot to do with transforming society. And Pluto is the great destroyer, but it does it in a slow manner. And it's humanity that's changing. The technology is changing. Everything that we've learned is changing. And notice the dates here. Okay, it goes all the way. It actually goes out to 2044. Okay, but for the purpose of this presentation, I got it up because it retrogrades back into Pluto for the last time in 2044. But you get the gist of it. But this is, I'm giving you a general overview of what it looks like, what these patterns are. And so it's very important to understand some of these dates and these events. And so Jupiter sextiles Uranus right there, which is usually innovation, technology, new concepts, new ideas that are coming into the field. And it's all in July. But July looks, I would say more positive than anything else, and it may be a good economy, and it could be a new infrastructure, maybe, new financial system, maybe new crypto. It's very possible around this time in July. At the end of July, we continue to see Neptune and Pluto making their connections there. So we're seeing, again, positive alignments. Sextiles in astrology represent positive alignments, okay? We see a mini trine affected at the end of July, and a mini trine is favorable, and we see it here, July the 31st, and we see it between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so again, they're all in a favorable position. So I would have to say leaning towards things with technology, innovation, dissolving old systems, and maybe even new power structures. One of the things I would love to see is in, let's say, in Washington, where they do away with, lifetime appointments in the Senate and the House, go to term limits. Maybe they enact term limits, 3 terms in the House and 2 terms in the Senate, and you're out. That I would love to see that, or a new form of government. That seems to be more power to the states, like the original founders intended. Okay, so here we see another mini trine that's also going to be affected June the 6th of 2027. So we're definitely seeing some major high points taking place here. Both June of this year and June of 2027. You didn't miss much, Jason. So anyway. Then we go into August, we have another solar eclipse, this time in Leo, the lion, the bravery, the creativity force, the happy-go-lucky. And I'm not going to read all this. I put this together, but it's all about creativity, confidence, sports, recreation, speculation, children. There's a strong focus on a personal level, but it's much more positive energy coming in August. And there it is right there, 20 degrees. And the only major alignment it's making is to Saturn. So it's almost like we have a new form of government, or possibly some new leadership of some kind, that's evolving here. That's what I'm seeing here, or maybe in another country. But this is the United States. So it is going to be, once again, loosely across the moon of the United States, Jason. So we're seeing, again, I would say financial matters, announcements, new ways of doing commerce, probably backed by gold, or a gold system or a gold currency of some kind is definitely being indicated here from my perspective here. So we're looking at another doorway that's opening up to possibilities, but this one is more positive than the first eclipse. We go to the lunar eclipse at the end of the month. Now it starts getting weird again. I mean, this is amazing to watch this energy go up and down like a yo-yo effect. And then we have at the end of the month, we have the lunar eclipse, which I talked about, the sun blocking out the, the earth blocking out the moon. And lunar eclipses, this one is in, I believe, Pisces. We are encouraged to find the balance between day-to-day functions and routines, physical health, and the need for order, which is Virgo, and vision, spiritual health, and disorder, and the infinite, which is Pisces. Now, something here, neglecting either one on either end will surely backfire. We will either be living in chaos or excessive order, Jason. This is the kind of energy I'm seeing here with, the symbolism of these eclipses. I want people to remember this, let's see what happens. But it's either going to be pure chaos or excessive order, because we have a new system in place, and we have to follow.
Later in the year.
Yeah, this is in the end of August into September. And this is where it starts getting weird again. Yeah, it starts getting weird again, Jason. Okay, here's that lunar eclipse. It's affecting Uranus. And so here's what's called a T-square. So we're seeing at the end of August going into September, something new that's been implemented or something that's dying off and is not being implemented, is not being used anymore. And we're being forced to look at things in a different way. That's what I'm seeing here. And I'm thinking it's going to be currency, or it's going to be a new mandate or something new that's been brought in July and August that we're all going to have to scratch our heads going, what the hell is this? What are we doing here? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to implement? That's what I'm seeing here. And here it is in the United States' chart. There's that T-square that I was talking about. And again, it has to do with communication, all forms of communication, legislation, and our daily routines are going to be totally disrupted again for some reason. So if they implement something new, there's going to be an adjustment period, Jason, especially if it's currency, and that's what I'm seeing here. What else? Now, this is where it gets tricky. Into September to October, Venus goes retrograde. Now, this happens about every 18 months. Venus is about partnerships and money again. So this is why I'm saying it could be this new financial system that people are just going, I don't want to use this crap. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to use it. I don't know what they're doing. And there's that possibility here. And it goes all the way till the 13th. But there's going to be a shadow period that starts at the end of August. So I would say from the end of August all the way to September the 15th, there's this very much uncertain period here. What are we doing? Where is this going? What are they trying to do with this new system? That's what I'm seeing. Okay. Again, we'll have to see how it plays itself out. But anytime we have Mercury or Venus or Mars going retrograde, it tends to slow us down and we become more introspection. There's a lot of introspection going on. Here it is in the United States' chart. It's going to start off in Libra. So it's in the 10th house of government. So there's definitely a shakeup in the government of some kind from this, starting from August the 31st on through the rest of the year, Jason. Don't we have an election coming up on 2026 this year, November? So we might not even have an election. How about that? Let me put that out.
Well, 2026 are midterms.
Yeah.
That's not going to be presidential, but it's for everybody else.
But notice here, I want you to notice Saturn represents governments. And here we see Saturn at 13 degrees opposing the natal Saturn of the United States at 14 degrees. And so this is very challenging energy. So we may have an event or something going on where it may disrupt those midterm elections, in my opinion here, where people are protesting them or they're not happy with what's going on, And we also see Pluto, the great destroyer, in the second house of income and values, squaring again, very much direct, the Venus, people, money, power. And so I'm seeing, again, towards the end of the year, September, October, November, being extremely disruptive. Here's the Venus retrograde, October the 3rd. And what makes this one so tricky is there's that T-square again. Now Mars, the great warriors opposing the great sign of death and rebirth. Once again, 3 degrees, and it's making the square again to Mercury in Scorpio. So I'm seeing a very disruptive pattern here, Jason. And Venus has just gone retrograde. And then Mercury will go retrograde between October 24th and the 13th. And here it is right here. So we'll have 5 planets in retrograde behind the Earth. So I'm seeing very much, again, a slowdown, a bit of disruption, chaos, having to do with financial matters or people in power. This is the pattern that I'm seeing from September, October, big time. Okay. And so the North Node is also hovering around the moon of the United States. It's like the United States is scratching their head going, what is going on? What are we doing? Where's everything going? That's what I'm sensing here, Jason. Okay. It's just, it's a weird energy. That's all I could say. It's a weird energy, and we're going to have to adjust to it. Then in November, major conjunction between Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Leo the Lion. This is aggressive behavior. This is me first. Aries is the self, Jupiter is expansion, doing things on a larger scale. So we see this disruptive energy coming in once again, but this time it's more aggressive. Okay, and there it is right there in the United States' chart, squaring the sun at 23 degrees. So this is all in November. So it's almost as if, people are either excited about this new financial system, or they're making tons of money on it, and there are other people that are not, and they're totally lost. Like, what the hell are we doing? What's going on? So I've always said humanity was going to divide or split, and I continue to see this year. But this is very aggressive behavior, Jupiter conjuncting Mars. And it could be over optimism too, So, but I'm giving you the time frames here, mid-November. And here we see that T-square. T-squares are rough. I'll be honest with you. And that is going to be opposing the moon of the United States. Every time this moon gets triggered, Jason, it's like rubbing a wound. It's like putting your finger or putting some sort of, painful ointment in the wound. That's what it's doing every time the United States' moon gets triggered. And we see the T-square, which is a rough alignment in astrology, or a transitional period. And that's what I'm seeing for November. Okay. So, all right, now we get any questions about the astrology for the year, Jason, before we get into the Phoenix object.
Well, I mean, I kind of have one scenario that could answer for all the for everything you've seen, but it's just a scenario. It doesn't mean it's going to come true. But
okay,
I mean, it would perfectly answer. I mean, from start to finish, we could have an infrastructure interruption, and it can be X-flare, it can be technological, whatever, but an infrastructure interruption, which allows for isolated terror attacks on the infrastructure in the United States, with the United States retaliating on a social level against people that citizens of the United States don't feel belong here, so they retaliate locally. But law enforcement begins rounding people up like ICE. Infrastructure attacks would be blamed on Muslims. This is a puritanical Christian nation at its core. As TPUSA still continues to prove, no matter what they do, the brainwashing is real, and people still follow that whole Erica Kirk psyop. So this conservative Christian power base is very strong in the United States. They will believe anything as long as you promote Jesus. So you're right. Muslims get the blame. So next thing you know, man, United States is up in arms socially, all kinds of things. We're not cool about having intersections attacked. We're not cool about having our power companies attacked, our water companies attacked. And next thing you know, there's a purge. I can see all that happening. I can actually see domestically authorities clean up the migrant threat. ICE is empowered, maybe even National Guard. I can see the U.S. military then attacking Arab nations surrounding Israel. I can see the U.S. becomes super patriotic, because that's one thing that unifies a people. Give them an enemy. Give them an enemy, and no matter the black population, the Hispanic population, the white population may have been getting into it for 60, 70 years of Zionist programming that was all intentional, but give them an enemy and they will come together and unify so fast under the American patriotic banner against a foreign element. And then the United States goes and attacks Arab countries. And guess what? Israel gets their Greater Israel Project after all. It's all wrapped up in a tight little old bow tie.
Exactly. Pax Judaica. But you see, this is why we astrologers are saying this is such a significant year. Just some of these alignments. And we're not trying to be negative about it, because it's really up to the people. But
Man, you know what? The Chinese had a good saying. The same root words. Well, what is it? The same root words in crisis are the same root words in opportunity in Chinese.
yeah,
So
exactly.
so yeah, I can see this is like a control template for the collective, what you're showing me.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get worried and scared about any of this, because I'm going to vibrate at a certain frequency that's going to make this right here meaningful to me, but in different ways, according to me personally. So, and you as well. So I just that's why I see the value of the astrology. It is collective programming. It's what's going on in the field. Now, whether I'm going to participate or not is up to me.
Exactly, Jason. And that's what I tell everyone, stay out of the fear mode, stay out of, this chaos, the little whirlwind of chaos. And unfortunately, sometimes we can't, like even going to a grocery store. I mean, right now down the block over here, we got people protesting, at the stupid signs out, and they're all young kids. There's 20, 30 of them out there protesting the stupid ICE stuff. But I'm just saying, it's like almost unavoidable, but you don't have to participate in it. So I totally agree with you. Always remember who you are, and don't, whatever happens, do the best you can, but don't feed into any of the fears and doubts or anything that occurs. But this is a major turning point, no doubt about it, Jason. All right. So you want to have some fun now? Let's go to the Phoenix object and your birthday.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
I know this is a long presentation, but we're wrapping it up, folks. Don't worry. All right. So here is the Phoenix I got for May 15th, 2040. And my listeners, if you don't know what the Phoenix is, Jason has talked about that. He's got many videos on the Phoenix, so you could watch him talk about it. But one of the major things, Jason, and I say it's going to affect the United States, look at Pluto at 27 degrees of Aquarius, squaring the sun at 25 degrees. This is significant. We also have Venus making a trine to Jupiter. Everything I see here seems to indicate some sort of earth change. Taurus is an earth sign. Virgo is an earth sign. This could have something to do with food, our quality of life. This is about humanity undergoing a major shakeup of some kind. We're also seeing Uranus is now switched going into Cancer, which is water. So something to do with water. Maybe one of the things I do see, Jason, unfortunately for the United States, is major floods along the coastal lines. California, Florida, places like that are going to have more coastal issues. So this Phoenix object, we're going to see as it comes into it, more land mass, things having to do with food, land, like earthquakes and stuff like that. I think I have a chart here for the United States. Look at this Pluto again, Jason, right on the moon of the United States. And Pluto represents death and rebirth. Now, I'm not saying the country's going to die. I'm just saying it's going to go under a massive transformation once again, as I showed throughout this entire video, how this moon of the United States gets triggered. You see, at the same time, we got Mars sitting on the North Node, which represents something to do with leadership or lack of leadership or aggression of some kind that's taking place here. Here's the sun in the 6th house having to do with health. Maybe there's going to be some health issues going on at that time having to do with disease or, things not working out. We also see Jupiter 5 degrees of the United States with Saturn at 5 degrees. This is a square configuration. It's almost like there could be no law enforcement, no government at all. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely does.
Okay. And it's almost like the country is unrecognizable at this point. Okay.
Yeah. Ask anybody in law enforcement. They'll tell you the truth. Those who work law enforcement, if there's a true systemic collapse, they're going to go protect their families. Yeah.
That's right.
They're not staying at the police station. They're not working EMS. Firemen aren't doing that. If there's a real true systemic collapse, there's not going to be any EMS rescue, no fire, no ambulances, no firemen coming, there's no police doing it. Yeah, a true systemic collapse. Everybody's in panic mode and they're going home to bed down until the event is over.
Exactly. But there's one other thing here that this happens before 2040. Look at Uranus, the great, disruptor, up against Pluto, the great destroyer. And they'll be exact at 27 degrees, probably in 2039. So,
Well, 2039 begins the Phoenix year, because I don't know what time this thing is you're showing me for 2039, but the Phoenix year is different than ours. It starts from the middle of May in 2039 to the middle of May in 2040. That's the Phoenix year for 2040.
well, that makes sense because Uranus will be at that 27 degrees opposing Pluto at 27 degrees. This has to do with values, money, possessions. There won't be any money at that time. There'll be no way of exchanging. There'll be no currency. There'll be no money.
If everything is digital by 2039,
Right.
and there's an infrastructure collapse because of a Phoenix phenomenon event, then everybody's bank accounts are wiped out. It's gone.
Pretty much. That's what I'm seeing here. And we also see Jupiter here right on Neptune. There's a confusion in the air. There's an uncertainty that's going on, in the air. So whatever it is, 2039 into 2040, around this time, as you predicted, there's some major things happening to society here that either involve the earth. There's no governments here. There's no money systems here. There is absolutely a major shift or a change occurring here. It's always hard to say exactly what it's going to be, but whatever it is, it's different. It's completely different than our way of life right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go to the next one. The Nemesis, I believe, is that what you called it? The Nemesis in 2046?
Yep. Nemesis X.
Okay. So here we see even more. We see the cross coming up here again with Pluto in Pisces, the sign of water. And here we see Uranus in Virgo, the sign of health or disease. So right away, we're seeing something to do with sickness or health. Then you say something about that one. There could be disease or some sort of, stuff coming from the sky that's going to be causing illness. Jason?
Yeah. That's one side effect of Nemesis X. It did create the Great Black Death Plague that killed a third of humanity in the 1300s.
And it is absolutely indicated here because Neptune is in Taurus. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and we see Venus in Scorpio, the sign of death. So whatever it is, this cross is indicating some sort of illness or sickness or major change to society's food production, crops, or the way of life. And that's what I'm seeing here. We also see Mars squaring Jupiter. Again, the individual, which is Aries, and there's no government here. There's no government. It's just small towns or people in just, I don't want to say survival mode, but they're really wondering what's actually happening to them.
I almost see a pentagram in there.
Yeah.
With Mars at ascendant, it's at the top of the 5-pointed star.
Right, going up here.
Aries, right here. Why? Oh, you can't see my cursor, can you?
No, actually, I can't see it on my phone. Go ahead.
No, right there on 8 degrees.
Okay, yeah.
That would be the top of like a 5-pointed star almost.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know, man. Do you see anywhere in this geometry any type of symbolism for portal or gateway, confluence, migration, anything like that?
No, I really don't. Not in the geometry of this, because we're looking at a cross, a loose cross here, and I'm not seeing anything with five points here. We see squares. These are squares here, here, and here. These are all squares. You see the square symbol there, but I'm not seeing a migration. I'm more or less seeing, I don't want to say desolation, but it's like a quiet dissolving or quiet stress of some kind.
So what does this chart really represent? You said it was earlier, it was the United States, or is this just the date, November 1st?
This is just the date. Here it is in the United States' chart. Okay. And it looks pretty chaotic.
That looks chaotic, but there's a lot more activity than the other one. The other one was for the whole world, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. So this one's for the world. This one's for the United States, and it looks like pretty chaotic. It's almost, I hate to say this, guys, and I'm not trying to be negative, almost like a Mad Max scenario.
It's what it's going to be.
Because Mars is opposing Jupiter here. We see Jupiter in the homeland here, like something major is going on with, there's no military, but it's the individual. We're seeing that chaotic sort of giant X across the United States. This is people in the public. This is an uncertainty of, what on a day-to-day, there's uncertainty here. Communication, there almost seems to be none. There seems to be no communication. Like all the electronics are out. There's nothing.
By this time, there has already been, like I've already showed you in Calendrix and in Nostradamus, that after the 2039 to 2040 event, there's a mass migration away from North America, going into other parts of the world. So by this time that this chart becomes true for the United States, it's not going to be very well populated.
Exactly, and that would symbolically represent something of what I'm seeing here. Again, it's not perfect, it's not exact, and it could be off, but it is showing me that there's stuff that's not happy here. It's not pleasant. Let's put it that way. And as far as people go, they're dead. Scorpio represents death. You see, and this is society. This is communities. So
Yeah.
if there's an event, a major catastrophe, or God forbid, I'm just saying, volcanoes erupting or massive earthquakes, there could be lots of people dying. And the one thing for sure,
we certainly have the charts to show it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could see it there when we're looking at these signs, So anyway, friends, let's meditate or pray or whatever you have to do to try and avoid or maybe lessen this outcome. Let's put it that way. Anyway,
2046 is long. 2046 is a long time away, and it doesn't mean the rest of the world is going to be going through that. And
right.
What you're showing is 100% confirmation of what I've already told my community, which is North America, like Nostradamus says, the entire Western world will die. But after 2046, there's going to be like a golden age period but it's not going to be in the Western Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere is going to be destroyed from this event.
Yeah. Well, that Casey map was pretty eye-opening, where most of the United States is underwater. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but let's have some fun real quick here, Jason, with your birth chart and give you a little bit of update of what's going on with you. So here's your actual birth chart, right? The 9th, 73, 12, 10. So here we see the sun here in Gemini. We see it closely aligned to Saturn. Okay. They're very close, 5 degrees apart. Remember, Saturn is the great restrictor. It's discipline. It's organization. Remember, you said early on, you had to study the Bible, and your step-parents were very strict, and you had to do a report every week on the Bible. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so,
I had to do a report on the books that I went to the public library every single week as a kid, and I was allowed to check out a book for me, and my mom checked out a book that I had to read. And once I gave her a report on the book she checked out for me, I was allowed to read the book I checked out.
Interesting. Okay. What's so interesting about, you brought up with the Bible Belt and, the Southern Baptists, look at Neptune. Neptune rules religion, especially Christianity. So here, this is the home life. Here you have Neptune in the 4th house. And so you were constantly around Christianity or the influence of Christianity symbolically. Do you see that? And so here it is right there. And your moon was in Libra at the time of your birth. And so in the 2nd house of income and values. So this is you wanting to partner up, you wanting to be around other people, resources were always very important to you, whether it was making money or owning things. This is something that you've always thought about. And I think you said even in prison, you were the guy that got everything for everyone else, correct?
I was the go-to guy.
You were the go-to guy, and this would be a chart.
A lot of trouble for that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. But you see how the 2nd house has to do with the values and money and possessions, and you've got 3 planets here, indicating you're the guy that manifests things, to get things, for other people. And then the rising sign, this is where the constellation was coming up at the time of your birth, and it was in Virgo. Okay, so Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and so is Virgo. So things related to health are things that you really need to pay attention to, even though you have a very strong, chart for indetermined. Things pertaining to your health can grab a hold of you sometimes and sort of knock you out in a sense. Didn't you say you were sick one time, that you had to stay in bed for a day or two?
Yep.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Because Virgo is the sign of health. What's interesting about the choices of friends in your life was, notice Here we see Mars in Pisces. Pisces is kind of like delusion, fantasy, unrealistic. And the seventh house has to do with partners and relationships. So it's making a square to your sun and Saturn. So early on in your life, you got involved with people that were, let's just say, not the most honest or unscrupulous. People were just, conning people out of stuff. You said you got in trouble at an early age, right?
Absolutely.
You see, and we see the restriction. And by the way, the 10th house has to do with the law and government. So you got in trouble with the law and government, you see? And so you've had to learn many lessons the hard way because of this sun conjuncting Saturn. But the good news here is because the sun and Saturn are in the 10th house, this is someone who's very well known or recognized or famous. It wouldn't be surprised in the next couple of years you become, way more well known than you are now. And that's a possibility here, and so that is there as well. As far as work goes, Jupiter in the 6th house, you're basically a hard worker, and it's almost like a natural for you to put the effort in to make things happen or to accomplish things. You're very determined, let's put it that way. Okay. And you do like being around people. I see that here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I actually drive all my friends and family absolutely crazy because even when I'm out, I'm still working.
Right. Exactly. So there's a strong determination here. And real quickly, I want to go to your numbers here and look at all these numbers, Jason, and look at all these symbols. But I want to draw your attention to the Hermit. The Hermit is the sign of somebody who is studying and trying to understand things at the deepest level. It's someone in isolation. Were you not in prison, my friend? You see the symbolism there of the 9s.
I'm still in isolation now. I live way out in the country. Way out in the country, and I don't like having neighbors up close to me. Yeah, I'm still in isolation.
Exactly. Do you see it there? I mean, the tarot really speaks. The Lover's card is the Gemini card, and then the Magician card, the 1, the 7, the strong will and determination, the 3, the creativity. It's a double 3, so it's highly creative. And then we have the Hierophant, which is someone who preaches, religion or speaks truth to power. And of course, this is what makes you very strong is you're at 8. When you reduce your numbers down, you're an 8th, which is associated with the Strength card. So you have a lot of strength and determination to get what you want, So you have a strong will to accomplish and to get what you want. So I just appreciate the symbolism of it all, and it's really reflective in the numbers. But real quick,
is that like what is that? What is that system that people are reduced to a number? Is that what this is right here?
That's
what is
numerology? Numerology.
No, not numerology. It was another name. I can't remember what the hell it was. This is something I learned 2 years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember. I'd have to be reminded what it was called.
Okay.
Human design. That's what it was.
Well, human design takes everything into account, the numerology, the astrology, and other methods. I was never a big fan of it because it's way too complicated. For me, it's all about reducing things to simplicity. The simpler you make it, the easier you could describe it and understand it. So I use numerology, the tarot, and astrology as a foundation. But and you could clearly see it here, But quickly, I want to run through. I know we've been through a lot of. I'm going to run through your chart with regards to the events that are taking place right now, what you need to keep an eye out for. So this is it right now as I'm doing this presentation. Mercury, your ruler, is in Pisces. It will go retrograde. So there's a revisiting of the past coming up for you, Jason, from now until April. I don't know if you're traveling to places you've been before or meeting with friends and people that you've known before. This is absolutely a connection that you're going to have coming up real soon. I want to focus on the eclipses. Okay, this is how we know. And when I was doing readings, this is how I would tell. The first eclipse is at 28 degrees in your 6th house. So this has a lot to do with your physical health and your daily routine. Are you exercising or taking good care of yourself right now, Jason?
I just started somebody called me fat recently. So I just started a whole new regime. I've got my aminos. I went and got
Excellent.
creatines. I've got fat burners. I've got nitro gummies. I
There
went,
you
I went and spent a fortune because that's not going to happen again. Yeah.
Exactly. But do you see how the eclipse is signifying that energy? And by the way, it's a great time to start an exercise program during an eclipse like this in the 6th house. So
Mhm.
you set this goal for 6 months, you will literally change your body in some way. Okay. But this is also great for work and being in the public. So whatever you've got planned, I know you travel or whatever you're going to be doing, this is going to bring a lot more notoriety and recognition to community-based, whether they're meetups or going to towns and cities that you're going to be doing events in. This is going to amplify your profile. Okay, so this is about for the next 3 to 6 months, and it could be all the way up to the end of the year. Okay,
Okay.
so absolutely looks good. It's making loosely favorable alignments to your Saturn. And so it looks pretty good. And you also got Jupiter that's waking up in the 11th house. So meeting a lot of new people is definitely in the cards for you. The only thing here is this Uranus, when it enters Gemini at the top part of your chart, you could be in for some major surprises. Okay. And I'm not saying they're bad or good, but you will have a surprise visit or surprise presentations, or maybe somebody wants to host you on their show, or there could be more surprises than you realize. That's what I'm getting
So,
at.
so surprise might not be the word. It would be a pattern, an unexpected pattern break.
Yes, exactly. But and I have to throw this in there. We also have to look at Saturn and Neptune in your 8th house. This is the deep psychological side of life. This is the house that represents death and rebirth. There is that possibility in the field this year for saying goodbye to people that don't belong in your life anymore, whether they're friends, things
Man,
that
dude, you don't even know how close. You have no idea how close to the mark you're at.
I could see that here, Jason. That's what I'm saying. Especially with these other eclipses. Let me show you. Here's the total lunar eclipse. And again, a lunar eclipse brings in endings. In the 1st house of identity and self, this is you and your appearance. So the fact that you're going to start exercising or taking better care of yourself is indicated here with this lunar eclipse. This is also you ridding people that don't belong in your life anymore as well. So you see all these planets in Pisces.
So crazy seeing that in a chart.
Exactly, and so this is the 1st house of identity self. This is the house of other people. And so you're literally saying, no, I got to let go of this, and this, and it involves other people. So this is what you have coming in. The next eclipse is in Leo in August. Now, this is a very interesting one to me. When I saw this, I said, damn, Jason's going to become more spiritual because it's the 12th house of spirituality. So you might be diving into topics, not that you're not spiritual now, but maybe more profound. It may involve children. Leo rules children. You may be doing stuff with children's books. You may be doing stuff on a deeper spiritual meaning and purpose. It's almost like you are completely shifting this year, Jason. Your perception, your reality, your physical body, the people in your life, the values, everything is starting to take hold for you in these areas. And it has to do with the spirit and spirituality.
Well, it's probably in conjunction with everything you showed of all the shifts that are also happening for the whole collective.
Right, exactly. And those of us that are in tune will know how to ride these waves, So I spend more time in nature. I take drives to, any place that has any water or nature. So you might find yourself doing more of that. I mean, by your house on the maps, you got some beautiful lakes. I may have to venture out there with the RV.
Sure, you come out this way. I got property you can set that RV up on. You can hang around.
I appreciate that. But anyway, you see the connections there of this solar eclipse. It's a new time. It's a rebirth time, and a very creative time is what I'm getting at. Okay, and so I'm seeing that, and then the last eclipse here in August is in the 1st house of identity and self here. What is it? It's actually in Pisces. Again, having to do with relationships. So the theme of relationships and rebirth are very strong in your chart this year, Jason. And so whoever you're leaving behind or doesn't belong in your life anymore, it's going to be so obvious that you can't avoid it anymore.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
changes they've already been put in motion, and I'm a long-term planner, so I already have like the rest of February, March, and April. And May is a big question mark, but
Mhm.
May is my target date for some massive shifts in my life.
Okay.
And I've already planned all this out. I'm really surprised to see this in the chart because
Okay.
I'm not responding to a chart. I'm responding to
Right.
things I innately knew that needed to come to pass in my life.
Well, there you go. A lot of times it's just a confirmation. That's what I found over the years. I would confirm stuff that's already started, you know. The
Crazy.
last thing I'll leave you with is Neptune in the eighth house could also have people crossing over, people in your life that you've known, you're associated with, that you knew, could be crossing over as well. Okay, so keep that in mind with the Neptune going through there.
So
The positive,
when you say crossing over, are you being
dying,
euphemistic
dying,
for dying?
dying, dying. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
Listen,
So,
we laugh about it. We laugh and joke because look, me and my old man are great. We
mhm.
laugh about it, but he's a devil may care type personality.
Is
I'm
he?
talking about he actually has a business card he carries right now at 84 years old that if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it.
That,
So yeah,
that's
my old
awesome.
man's he's devil may care, and
That,
that's his lifestyle. He's a
that's
happy guy,
awesome.
and he wants everybody around him to be happy. And you know what? He's gonna do whatever he wants to do. So
What's his birthday if you don't mind me asking?
December 19th.
Okay. He's a lucky Sagittarius. Yeah. Um, the last thing I'm going to share with you here with your intuition is going to be much stronger as well. Neptune in the eighth house is very psychic. So pay attention to your dreams or your visions, or start doing meditation where you ask the universe or your higher consciousness to show you what you need to see, because Neptune here is very psychic, Jason. Okay. So between the eclipse on April the 12th and this Neptune transiting your eighth house, your spidey senses will be very strong, perceiving things before they happen, dreams that are extremely vivid that actually happen, sensing stuff around people. It's almost like, the energy just gets ramped up even more. Okay. So keep that in mind. But it is a big year for you to transform in some major way, identity, self, and how others perceive you, including getting a lot more recognition.
Wow.
All right. Any questions?
No questions. I'm impressed. Like with Shanta, I'm impressed because
Well, thank you.
there's only one person in the chat who actually even knows what you're talking about besides me. I have already set things in motion. I'm already in
Yeah.
I'm already in 2026 mode, even
Good.
though it's like long-term planning as far as months. It's a graduated change in my life. I'm making sure that it's all very
Yeah.
structured,
Mhm.
and there's not going to be any type of blowback.
Right. Well, again, Jason, I kept it very generic for you. I mean, if I wanted to get more personal or deeper, I probably could find some more stuff that was just showing up for me,
I don't need
'cause
you
I'm not
looking up my search history, bro. Stay out of my business, man.
exactly. I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that.
Yeah,
I don't need to know
I'm just teasing.
but that's how it works. When I sat down when I would sit down with clients, I literally saw dead people around them. I would see things in their
Yeah.
chart that nobody else knew. And I would tell them, and they would be blown away. And every good astrologer or psychic has that ability, but it becomes natural after
Well,
a while.
that's always been my position, even when I was critical. Like when my channel was fledgling, when I was in my YouTube youth, even
Mhm.
though I'd already been in publishing almost 20 years, when I was starting off in social media, I did not entertain tarot, astrology.
Right.
None of that was coming into my field. But you have to understand what I was doing. I was trying to
Mhm.
get a tremendous amount of data out to the public, and I
Mhm.
didn't need to be regarded as just another YouTuber or
Right.
just somebody who was mixing all kinds of disciplines because it's chronology. It was just chronology, and that's it. And I had to get all this data out before I even started podcasting with people and doing all kinds of stuff. And
Mhm.
then when I started coming into contact with people who had other systems of acquiring information, which
Mhm.
were not necessarily through bibliographies, I'm a little blown away. So I developed a theory really quick And I was telling my community 3 and 4 years ago that, look, it's never the method. It's always the man. It says that you have astrologers populating the field, and most of them are unsuccessful. You have tarot readers, tea readers. I don't care what the method is. It's always going to be the individual soul applying that method. So really, you guys are reading the field. You're using intuition, imagination. These are spiritual qualities, and you guys have found methods to read the field that other people are nowhere near as good at. But like I said, it's never astrology in and of itself is nothing. Because it requires an interface. It requires a soul to interface with that information and derive from it more value than the common individual who's trying to see things. I can't see that stuff in astrology that y'all see until you tell me, until you explain it to me. Then it makes sense.
No, absolutely. Totally. But hey, we almost broke a record, I think. 3 hours. And what's your record for interview? 3 hours.
For a podcast, we may have hit the top. I don't know of anybody I've been on this long with.
Okay.
Maybe recently I went on a 3-hour one with somebody, something like this. Okay. But yeah, you're in the top 1% because most of my guests do not have that hang time.
I appreciate that. But remember, I said to you that one of my dear friends has your birthday. I knew right away when you gave me your birthday. I said, oh, this guy is family. This guy, is an extended family member over here.
June 9th.
But she's a really dear friend of mine. But so you get the gist of what the year looks like. It is definitely not a docile year, Jason. No doubt about it. I'm
kind of excited about it. I got to look at it. Nothing Chinese about me, but they did. There's two things that stuck with me. One of them is when the right man makes use of the wrong means still work in the right way.
Right.
So it's the individual. And then the Chinese also are the ones that show us that the exact same symbols that build crisis also form the word opportunity.
That's right. Exactly. So I know your listeners and my listeners are a little bit more evolved, than the average person. So, take it all with a grain of salt and live your life and, stay away from the negative people or the fear-based stuff. It's not healthy. And get out in nature. That's my big thing now. Get out in nature as much as you can.
I agree. That's been great, man. It's been awesome.
Same here.
And your links are all in the description box. I'm going to go back through this video. I'm going to screenshot all those.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm going to screenshot all those charts you shared. I might blow some up on X.
Do whatever you want with them. I mean, it's out there in the field now. It's on my channel. It's on your channel, whatever.
Awesome.
It's all good.
Awesome,
Thanks,
man.
Jason. I appreciate it so much, brother.
Give a Big John. Give a Big John in the next month or so and schedule. I'll come on your channel. We'll chop up about something.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right. All right, Jason, get ready. See you soon, brother.
Richard.
All right, bye.
All right, man. That was a good one. He hung in there too, didn't he? Man, it's 3.5 hours. And he did it looking cool, debonair, like he could go another 3.5 hours. It's all right with me. Yeah, that's good. That's a good chat. Good talk. A lot to process, a lot to think about, collective and the personal. So, a couple of issues real quick. His links are in my description box and throughout the chat. Some of my moderators have been posting his links as well. As far as the meetup goes, we still have some tickets. We don't sell them all because we always have a lot of walk-ins for local. We always have local people that just show up. So we only have a certain amount of seats. So there are still tickets for sale. Also, if you're on Twitter and on X and you want to see all these amazing pictures that I showed in that David Icke video about dinosaurs and humans coexisting in the dark ages and the reptilian and all the demon face stuff, I've been posting it all morning on X. There are several long post threads that show amazing images. In that video, I showed a lot of these images for the very first time. You've never seen them before. Artifacts that have been found from all over the world that show this. Also, it's opened up so many avenues of research now that we understand. I mean, this megalithic walls Great Wall of China. I have another video. I'm already building it right now, showing you, look, man, we've been missing this from the beginning. None of these walls were for warfare. There's no evidence any of these walls were used in siege warfare. They weren't damaged in warfare. All these freestanding megalithic walls that all these channels are showing pictures of, and everybody's like, man, why would they build this megalithic structure way up here? Listen, the Nemesis X tertiary fields activating reptilian DNA in just avians and chickens and reptiles and turtles, and then within the 2 or 3 year period populating the world with all these new reptilian and amphibian answers for every one of these enigmas. Now we understand why they needed an elevated road that attached the Chinese Yellow Sea all the way to ancient Rome. It was for trade. It was to ensure that merchandise, opium and silks and textiles and rice and all this stuff could freely go back and forth. Money and merchandise could exchange. And it did it that these walls were elevated. They were elevated. The crenellations were added later, way later. The original purpose of all these was for vapor canopy conveyances in order to get to play. It's a whole different type of world. So yeah, we're our minds are blown just looking at all this in the comment sections and chat on X. But I'm also re-going through all my files because this answers for why we found the ancient world the way we did, abandoned. Tools abandoned, thrown out. Archaeologists baffled because all these megalithic structures were found unfinished. That's why the nubs are still on the walls. They were supposed to come in there and polish all that off. They never had time. Our predecessors were trying to build a world that was safe for their children, and they were doing it too. But something else came. The Phoenix came and ended that world. The Ogygian deluge. So it's so crazy, man. Everything we're finding out, we're going a whole different. The whole history of the world is either ice ages, like now we're in one now, or vapor canopies. That's it. The whole entire history of the world, everything is answered in ice ages and vapor canopies, and it's much faster. We're not talking about uniformitarian principles. We are talking about centuries. We're talking every 6 to 7 to 800 years. There's a flip between vapor canopies and ice ages. And this is why all these maps and ancient ruins and artifacts, everything we're finding fits perfectly. The next flip into a vapor canopy period and the collapse of our present ice age begins 2039. So this is where we're going, guys. It's blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind. I can't even process the information fast enough. I'm going through my files and I keep finding more and more stuff, that more and more topics we have to revisit now that we see this. It's so clear now. It's crazy. And for the person that's blowing in my chat up about John Lamb Lash, listen, I've been busy as hell for 2 months. I'm still busy with the Archaix Academy. And Mr. Lash was more than welcome to come back a whole lot sooner. But the last time I talked to him, John wanted to do some type of collaboration, which requires me to know what it is he wants to talk about, and then for me to research what he's talking about. He's not talking about coming on my channel again. That was not our last discussion with John Lamb Lash. Our last discussion was he and I to do some project together, and then for me to present my material, him to present his material, and we were going to pre-record. Well, that takes time. It takes time out of my life to do that. I am not avoiding John Lamb Lash. If he wanted to come on the channel, I would bring him on the channel tomorrow. But I don't know what to talk about, so he would have the floor. Yeah, I'm not avoiding him. But he did lay it out that he wanted to do a project. Well, projects require pre-planning, and I'm not there yet. I have a meetup on the 20th, and I've got to get academy done. I'm on my last academies, but I literally created a university syllabus, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So I'm not avoiding Mr. Lash. I got much respect for him. I'm just overwhelmed. And all these podcasts actually help me, because if I'm doing a podcast, Astrologer Joe was the presenter. I didn't have to do any research for this video. It frees up my schedule to work on the things I'm trying to get done. When I've had all these other guests, it totally freed my schedule up to do everything that I need to do. But to engage, I feel honored because John Lamb Lash is prestigious. He's also an academic. And for him to want to work on a project with me is amazing. And I'm not going to turn that down. Even if we disagree, I'm not going to turn that down. But it requires me to take time out of my life, which I don't have right now, in order to do all the pre-planning and all the stuff that he wanted to do. He did not want to come just straight back on my channel and do another deal. So I'm just telling you, I'm not avoiding him at all. So anyway, matter of fact, now that it's on my mind, I'm going to send him an email. Let's see here, but I will check out. I will check out with a song. I'll tell you what. We'll see what we're going to do here. This is a great presentation, guys. Astrology still blows my mind, especially about what he's telling me personally. It's like, wow, man, get out of my head, dude. Love you guys. I have no idea what happened to that video. What in the hell happened to that video? There it is. Holler at you.
The script keeps running line by line.